Two young women excitedly examine a cosmetic product, one exclaiming, "Isn't this big?" as the other eagerly suggests, "Let's take a picture." The air buzzes with their youthful energy. Suddenly, the female protagonist is violently seized by unknown assailants, her hair flying as she screams in terror, desperately crying out, "Stop it, don't do that." Rain pours down, mirroring her distress. Left alone in the pouring rain, the female protagonist stands drenched and heartbroken, her eyes downcast as she grapples with the traumatic event. A moment later, the charismatic executive appears, shielding the female protagonist with an umbrella, his voice filled with concern as he asks, "Are you okay?" She looks up, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and relief. Chilling thought echoes, a furious voice snarling, "Damn you EMI." The words cut through the air, hinting at a deep-seated resentment directed towards the female protagonist. The female protagonist's lips part, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper escaping. Finally, the rain continues to fall, obscuring the true depth of her emotions. A young female protagonist, full of childish exuberance, beams up at her father, exclaiming, "Hey daddy, I bowed properly this time." Her father gazes down at her with loving eyes. Her father smiles, affirming, "Yeah, you've gotten better." He gently pats her head, adding with pride, "I expect no less from the heiress of Yoshida Restaurant." Her mother, standing beside her father, reinforces the family's values. "As a member of the family who owns this establishment, you must always remember to express your gratitude to our customers." Young female protagonist, identified as Yoshida Emi, enthusiastically responds, "Yes, repay gratitude in kind." "I got it." Her bright eyes reflect her earnest promise. Her parents beam at her, a shared sentiment unspoken but clear. This principle is deeply ingrained, since that's our family motto. Years later, an altar stands solemnly, adorned with a framed photograph of the female protagonist's smiling parents, a wisp of incense smoke rising into the somber air. An adult female protagonist, now known as Yoshida Emi, stands before the altar, her hands pressed together in a gesture of prayer and respect, her expression sorrowful. Female protagonist kneels with her friend Asuka and her husband, the younger associate, expressing her gratitude. "Asuka, thank you for coming. My dad and mom are surely delighted as well." Asuka, with a reassuring smile, dismisses her worries. "Hey, don't sweat it. Your parents have been taking care of me since I was still a high schooler after all." She then asks, "Anyway, are you doing well in your house?" The female protagonist offers a quiet, contemplative yeah. Her gaze is distant, lost in thought. She reflects on her current situation. "I never thought I'd return home right after getting married, so it feels a bit weird." Facing her two steadfast companions, the female protagonist sincerely states, "I owe a lot to you too, Asuka." Ryosuke. Her expression softens, a deep gratitude in her eyes as she confesses, "Without you, I wouldn't survive this." The younger associate, her husband Yoshida Ryosuke, places a hand on his chest, assuring her, "It's my duty as your husband to support you." The female protagonist's hand rests gently, a symbol of the unwavering support she receives from her loved ones, a silent promise of enduring companionship. Asuka chimes in playfully, "And we're besties too." The female protagonist turns to her, asking, "We've been together since forever, right?" The female protagonist smiles warmly, a soft yeah, confirming their long-standing bond, a testament to their enduring friendship. A flashback reveals their high school days, with the female protagonist narrating, "The three of us have been best friends since high school. We spent all our time together as a trio." The scene shifts to their wedding, Asuka exclaiming, "Congrats." The female protagonist narrates, "Ryosuke and I started dating in high school too. We got married a year ago." The female protagonist continues, revealing the depth of the younger associate's commitment. "He decided to take my family name out of consideration for me, who has had a chronic heart condition since a young age." Female protagonist, radiant in her wedding dress, gazes with gentle affection, a silent acknowledgement of her husband's profound gesture. Wedding guests applaud and smile, celebrating the joyous union of the female protagonist and the younger associate, a moment of happiness and new beginnings. The joyous memories are shattered by a grim reality, a blood-splattered crosswalk strewn with debris, cordoned off by caution keep out tape. The stark image speaks of sudden tragedy. In the aftermath, the younger associate offers comfort to a weeping female protagonist, her face buried in a tissue, clad in mourning attire. The weight of loss hangs heavy in the air. The female protagonist's hands are clasped, her thoughts drifting. "That's why we're here now. To occupy my parents' home which had become empty." Asuka. Ryosuke. Kneeling with her husband and friend, the female protagonist expresses her profound appreciation, stating, "I'm really thankful." Her voice is filled with genuine emotion. A pile of beautifully wrapped souvenirs from Korea catches the female protagonist's eye. With wide-eyed wonder, she exclaims, "This much?" Her excitement is palpable. Seated around a table, the younger associate asks Asuka, "How was Korea?" Asuka replies, "It was a pretty tough location for shooting, but it was still fun." The female protagonist listens intently, a pensive expression on her face, as Asuka recounts her experiences, the weight of recent events still lingering in her eyes. The female protagonist beams, holding a small cracker, her expression bright with a newfound joy. Asuka declares her ambition, stating she still has a long way to go in her journey to become a world-class actress, a confident smirk playing on her lips. Female protagonist observes Asuka, reflecting on how effortlessly beautiful Asuka is, having launched her career as an actress right after high school. The female protagonist inquires about the charismatic executive's business trip to Singapore, to which he replies that it extended longer than anticipated. The narration reveals the charismatic executive, a medical representative for a pharmaceutical company, is frequently engaged in overseas projects, explaining his extended absences. Asuka expresses her loneliness due to the charismatic executive's frequent travels, remarking on how much she missed them last month. The female protagonist playfully retorts, suggesting they must have been flirting daily through video calls. The charismatic executive expresses concern for Asuka's delicate health, admitting he was worried she might suffer a seizure. Hands carefully stack plates, tidying up after the meal. The charismatic executive and the female protagonist share a moment in the kitchen, both agreeing that their time together was enjoyable. With a shy smile, the female protagonist turns to the charismatic executive, revealing she has something important to tell him. Noticing her serious demeanor, the charismatic executive gently touches her shoulder, asking why she looks so grave. The female protagonist, a mix of nervousness and hope on her face, wonders if the charismatic executive will be happy with her news before revealing, "Actually, I'm pregnant." The charismatic executive's eyes widen in pure shock, the news hitting him with an undeniable force. Female protagonist happily explains she confirmed the pregnancy at the hospital, now 5 weeks along, and waited to tell him in person despite her eagerness. The charismatic executive remains speechless, his mouth slightly open in utter disbelief. The charismatic executive runs a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of shock and distress as he utters, "No way." The female protagonist's eyes widen in confusion, a silent huh, escaping her thoughts as his reaction completely blindsides her. Standing opposite the charismatic executive, the female protagonist's thoughts betray her disappointment, having expected him to be overjoyed. She then mentions her doctor's warning about her chronic illness, implying a concern for her condition. Female protagonist reassures him, despite her chronic illness, that she has been doing well so far. Suddenly, the charismatic executive pulls the female protagonist into a tight embrace, exclaiming his immense happiness and anticipation. Peering over the charismatic executive's shoulder, the female protagonist's eyes betray a lingering doubt, a quiet thought of his name escaping her. As they embrace, the towel slips from the female protagonist's hand, falling silently to the floor, a subtle symbol of the unspoken tension. Female protagonist's mind is plagued by doubt, questioning if the charismatic executive is truly happy about the pregnancy. A few days later, the scene shifts. The female protagonist expresses her gratitude to Asuka for accompanying her, explaining she couldn't ask the charismatic executive at the moment. Asuka looks at the female protagonist, incredulous, asking if she truly believes the charismatic executive wasn't happy, insisting he was merely shocked. Asuka remarks that the charismatic executive has always been terrible with surprises, while the female protagonist gratefully acknowledges Asuka's reassuring words. Asuka confidently tells the female protagonist to leave all her troubles to Asuka, urging her not to stress for the baby's sake and to be more mindful of her own condition. The female protagonist responds with a soft smile, acknowledging Asuka's advice. Asuka, standing beside the female protagonist by a car, reflects that the news still feels surreal, excited by the thought of the couple becoming parents. Asuka's face lights up with excitement, expressing her joy for the impending parenthood. Female protagonist, beaming, extends a small gift box to Asuka, telling her to take it. Asuka looks surprised, while the female protagonist explains the gift is because Asuka is always there for her. Asuka recognizes the brand on the box, realizing it's Hermelu's perfume, the very one she had mentioned wanting. Asuka, flustered, protests that she cannot accept such an expensive gift, but the female protagonist insists she take it. Female protagonist explains her heartfelt reasons, stating that Asuka has been her main support since she lost her parents, even accompanying her today. The female protagonist continues, quoting repay gratitude in kind, expressing her long-held desire to show her appreciation, though she feels even this gift isn't enough to repay Asuka's immense kindness. The female protagonist adds that she believes the chosen fragrance is perfect for Asuka. Asuka looks down, a soft smile on her face, recalling how the female protagonist's mother often used the phrase repay gratitude in kind. Holding the gift box, Asuka finally relents, stating that since the female protagonist invoked her mother's memory, she cannot refuse the thoughtful present. With a gentle smile, the female protagonist accepts the gift, assuring Asuka that she will cherish it deeply, offering a heartfelt thank you. Asuka, concerned, insists on driving the female protagonist home, emphasizing the precious life she now carries. The female protagonist, grateful, agrees to the ride, her hand reaching for the car door. As the car begins to move, the female protagonist suddenly calls out to Asuka, a new thought sparking in her mind. She shares her joy, revealing that she has already chosen a name for her baby and wishes to incorporate a character from Asuka's name into it. Asuka listens, her expression unreadable, a moment of silent contemplation passing between them. Suddenly, a sharp metallic screech rips through the air as Asuka's eyes widen in terror, her hands gripping the steering wheel. The foot slams down on the brake pedal with urgent force, the sudden action jolting the vehicle. The female protagonist cries out in pain, clutching her stomach as a throbbing, red heart pulsates on the screen. Asuka frantically checks on the female protagonist, her voice filled with panic, asking if she's alright. Overwhelmed with guilt and fear, Asuka's face contorts as she screams an apology, unsure how to handle the sudden crisis. Female protagonist, tears streaming down her face, cries out Asuka's name, her hands desperately clutching her stomach, fearing for her baby. In a poignant flashback, the female protagonist gazes lovingly at an ultrasound photo, her heart swelling with maternal affection for her baby. Her hands gently cup a tiny, delicate baby sock, a symbol of the future she dreamed of holding. Tears silently fall from her eyes as she looks down, the weight of her loss heavy upon her. Kneeling in sorrow, the female protagonist laments that her baby returned to heaven before she could even decide on a name. Back in the car, Asuka screams the female protagonist's name, her face etched with horror at the unfolding tragedy. Asuka's eyes widen in shock and despair, her hand clutching her leg. In a frantic attempt to help, Asuka quickly removes her high heel, preparing to act. Asuka turns back to the female protagonist, her voice laced with terror, asking if she's okay as the female protagonist lies slumped in the passenger seat. Frantically, Asuka searches her bag, demanding to know where the female protagonist's medicine is. Female protagonist, weeping, explains her agonizing dilemma: drinking the medicine would harm her baby. Asuka, desperate and tearful, shouts that the female protagonist will die if she doesn't take the medicine. Asuka extends a blister pack of pills, her voice pleading with the female protagonist to take them. With a desperate plea, Asuka urges the female protagonist to drink the medicine, her expression filled with anguish. Later, in a hospital room, the female protagonist rests in a bed while Asuka sits silently by her side, a somber atmosphere hanging heavy. The charismatic executive bursts into the room, his face etched with worry, calling out the female protagonist's name. He rushes to her bedside, urgently asking about her condition and the baby. The charismatic executive stands over the female protagonist, his gaze filled with concern and fear. The female protagonist turns her head away, tears silently escaping her eyes, unable to meet his gaze. Charismatic executive's face contorts in shock as he processes the devastating news. Asuka falls to her knees, bowing deeply to the charismatic executive, begging for forgiveness in her anguish. Tears stream down Asuka's face as she vehemently blames herself for the tragedy, convinced it was all her fault. The female protagonist reaches out, telling Asuka to stop trying to console her amidst their shared grief. Asuka, inconsolable, struggles against the charismatic executive, her cries of self-blame echoing through the room, repeating that it was because of her, the female protagonist's baby. The female protagonist, though heartbroken, reassures Asuka with a quiet strength, stating that it was not her fault. It was later revealed that the airbag sensor was broken and the malfunction occurred due to the impact of Asuka's sudden braking. Since the incident, Asuka had not visited, believing she couldn't face the female protagonist again. A few weeks later, the female protagonist and the charismatic executive share a quiet meal, the lingering sadness still palpable. The quiet meal continued, the lingering sadness still visible on the charismatic executive's face as he contemplated their situation. Across from him, the female protagonist mirrored his pensive mood, her gaze distant as she held her chopsticks. Breaking the silence, the charismatic executive hesitantly asked if she had also received the invitation to their school reunion. The female protagonist quietly affirmed that she had. He expressed his doubt about attending this time, suggesting they refused the invitation altogether. But the female protagonist, with a sudden resolve, declared they should go. Her unexpected response left the charismatic executive utterly surprised, his eyes wide with disbelief. The female protagonist firmly tapped her chopsticks together, a silent declaration of her decision. She then stated her intention: they would call Asuka and go to the reunion together, emphasizing her desire for all of them to be there. Charismatic executive simply uttered her name, a mix of understanding and concern in his voice. The female protagonist reflected on the past, acknowledging that the incident with Asuka was an accident and she had come to terms with it. Her voice filled with raw emotion, she confessed that she didn't want to lose Asuka either. The gentle smile, the charismatic executive reassured her, promising to support her decision. His hand reached out, a silent gesture of comfort and unwavering support for the female protagonist. A few days later, the female protagonist and the charismatic executive stood at a bustling station preparing for their journey. The female protagonist still wore a hint of sadness, her gaze cast downwards despite the charismatic executive's presence. Suddenly, Asuka appeared, her eyes widening in surprise as she spotted the female protagonist. Asuka's voice was filled with shock as she uttered the female protagonist's name, recognizing her after so long. The female protagonist, equally surprised, softly called out Asuka's name. Asuka, looking away, began to apologize, still struggling with the guilt of the past incident. Before Asuka could finish, the female protagonist rushed forward, pulling her into a tight embrace. Tears streamed down both their faces as the female protagonist confessed she didn't want to lose Asuka, while Asuka, overwhelmed, could only call out her friend's name. The female protagonist, clutching her bag, found solace in the renewed connection with her friend. Asuka, still embraced by the female protagonist, expressed her heartfelt apologies and gratitude as the charismatic executive watched on, a faint smile gracing his lips. Finally, the trio arrived at their old high school, the familiar gate standing as a testament to their shared past. The charismatic executive exclaimed how nostalgic the school felt while Asuka noted it had been a long time since graduation. The female protagonist affirmed that coming together was indeed the right choice. As they walked, the charismatic executive's eyes suddenly widened in recognition, spotting a group of men nearby. Whispering to the others, the charismatic executive pointed out Morinaga Taiga, speculating that he hadn't managed to get a proper job. Asuka angrily reminded them of the Sugar Daddy website incident, suggesting Morinaga Taiga was the culprit and noting his frequent absences from class. The female protagonist listened, a thoughtful and slightly troubled expression on her face. Flashback revealed the female protagonist in high school, followed by an image of her photo on a Sugar Daddy website and the ensuing harassment for which the perpetrator remained unknown. Asuka sternly warned the female protagonist to keep her distance from Morinaga Taiga. However, the female protagonist, with a pensive look, mused that she didn't believe Morinaga Taiga was a bad person. Asuka groaned, exclaiming that the female protagonist's belief in everyone's goodness was her weakness, calling her too nice a lady, a sentiment the charismatic executive seemed to echo. Two other female attendees spotted them, one exclaiming, "Isn't that Ryosuke?" Asuka and Emi are there too. The female protagonist greeted them warmly, prompting one of the women to comment on her unchanging polite speech and demeanor. A male attendee with a ponytail observed the group, his expression unreadable. Inside the reunion, amidst many familiar faces, an unnamed male expressed surprise that Ito-san had actually come. Asuka engaged in conversation with a male attendee who noted her extensive travels abroad for shooting, including recent trips to Australia and Hong Kong. Another male attendee, holding a drink, listened intently, his expression one of mild surprise. At a nearby table, one male attendee playfully chided another, named Minato, for knowing too much. The female protagonist, hearing the playful chiding, looked up in surprise, asking, "Wait, is that true?" Other attendees chimed in with their own thoughts, some agreeing, "Actually, me too," while others added, "So do I." The stern director, holding a cup, appeared slightly flustered, a faint blush on his cheeks. The stern director approached their table, greeting everyone warmly. "Hey, how are you guys?" The attendees replied, "Sensei, it's been a while." Stern director complimented Asuka, saying, "Itu, I'm glad to see your career proceeding smoothly. I've watched your films." Asuka responded with a modest, "Oh, my." The female protagonist, with a smile, began to speak. "Sensei, actually, Ryosuke and I dash." Interrupting, the stern director playfully asked, "When will you two get married, Itu?" "Saka." He then added, "You were always making out behind the gym and it was a real pain for the teachers." Both the charismatic executive and the female protagonist reacted with wide-eyed shock at the stern director's unexpected and mistaken comments. The stern director, still standing, chuckled to himself, muttering, "Geez." Asuka laughed, playfully telling the sensei, "Stop kidding, aren't you mistaking us for someone else?" The female protagonist, looking at Ryosuke, urged the sensei, "Come on, sensei, who did you catch back then, right, Ryosuke?" Ryosuke responded with a knowing smirk, simply confirming, "Yeah." The dining hall continued to buzz with lively chatter, the atmosphere growing louder. The female protagonist, holding her cup, looked up with a confused, "Huh," as if sensing something was amiss. She observed the empty seats at the table, a thought forming in her mind. Where are Ryosuke and Asuka? Did they go to the toilet? The stern director continued his playful teasing, calling out, "Itu Asuka, Saka Ryosuke, when will you two get married?" The female protagonist's expression tightened, a worried frown creasing her brow as she gripped her cup, a growing unease settling in. As the female protagonist walked away from the table, her mind raced, desperately hoping it was all a misunderstanding, right? Ryosuke's eyes narrowed, a silent exclamation marking his sudden realization as she departed. Walking down the quiet hallway, the female protagonist thought it was weird that she couldn't find the two missing individuals in the toilet or anywhere. She paused, gazing out the window into the dark night, a sense of unease growing within her. Her eye widened in utter shock, reflecting a horrifying sight she had just witnessed. Under the crescent moon, the female protagonist's mind raced, a chilling thought forming. Could it be? Her face contorted in a silent gasp, two sharp exclamations indicating her profound distress. Hiding behind a wall, the female protagonist recognized the voices of Ryosuke and Asuka, confirming her fears. So they really are here. The female protagonist's face twisted in anguish as she overheard Asuka's cruel comment, "I'm so glad Emi is such a proper lady." Asuka scoffed, "Still, I can't believe that old man is still alive." Ryosuke smirked, recalling, "That guy caught us when we were making out in the gym's storage room." The female protagonist's eyes were stretched wide in absolute horror, the truth of the betrayal crashing down upon her. Ryosuke, looking at Asuka, declared, "It'll be all over if Emi ever finds this out. After all the hardship we had to go through to make up with her, our plan was almost ruined." The female protagonist's face was a mask of disbelief, a soft "huh" escaping her lips as she grappled with the word plan. Asuka glared, demanding to know, "What if she discovers our affair here? I won't forgive you if you end up getting divorced with her." A vibrant promotional image for Ken Scans appeared, inviting readers to support their work and join their community. The chapter title appeared, emblazoned in bold, stylized Japanese characters against a dark background. Ryosuke pressed. Got it. It was hard making up with Emmy, so she shouldn't discover our affair. The female protagonist's world shattered as the image of Asuka and Ryosuke kissing flashed in her mind, the horrifying realization echoing. Asuka and Ryosuke were having an affair. But that's impossible. Asuka smiled slyly, declaring, anyhow, I'm glad I patched things up with her safely today. Asuka admired a small box, a thought bubble revealing her desire for a necklace, as she mused, isn't this the one I said I wanted? And hanging out with such a plain woman helps make me stand out more. From the shadows of memory, a younger version of the female antagonist with a seemingly warm smile embraced the female protagonist, hinting at a past connection. The female antagonist's voice, sweet and deceptive, declared their bond because we're family. Yet a chilling, sinister smile stretched across the female antagonist's face, her eyes glinting with a predatory intent, revealing the true darkness beneath her facade. The charismatic executive, with a knowing smirk, complimented her, remarking, your crying performance this morning was superb. Distraught, the female protagonist's mind echoed with thoughts of her husband as the male figure mockingly exclaimed, I can't fathom why you were not more popular as an actress. The female antagonist's face contorted into a mask of fury, a silent growl escaping her lips. The female antagonist sharply retorted, shut it. Just be careful not to fail contraception for the second time. The female protagonist gasped, ah, as the chilling words echoed from the female antagonist, because it won't be easy to stage another incident. Huddled on the ground, the female protagonist's mind reeled, realizing so that incident really was intentional. The female antagonist admonished the charismatic executive, our plan has been advancing smoothly since our freshman year. Yet you almost blew it up in an instant. He humbly replied, sorry. The female antagonist's anger flared, her finger pointing accusingly as she demanded, still, does this mean you did it with her? You said you haven't touched her yet. Charismatic executive, avoiding her gaze, tried to change the subject, asking, leave it now. How did you stage the incident? The female antagonist casually explained, you can find inspirations just with a quick search on the internet nowadays. The charismatic executive, taken aback, wondered, so you arranged everything by yourself? With a dismissive gesture, the female antagonist plucked a delicate flower, stating, of course. Isn't that obvious? The female antagonist's sinister smile widened as she declared, your share will decrease if you don't have a child, so I nip the dangerous bud quickly. The charismatic executive looked conflicted, a disturbing thought crossing his mind, dangerous, but that kid is still mine too. The female antagonist's expression darkened, challenging him, come again, do you want to have children with her for real, after all? The female antagonist's rage erupted, you're my lover, and you can live such a luxurious life also thanks to the plan I crafted, so don't get swayed now. The charismatic executive stared, speechless and visibly shaken by the female antagonist's outburst. The female antagonist's hand dropped the flower stem as she coldly stated, besides, you won't be able to make another baby. The female antagonist's voice dropped, laced with a chilling threat, because every time you have one. The female protagonist's eyes widened in terror as the female antagonist's chilling declaration echoed, I'll be sure to kill them. The charismatic executive's face contorted in sheer horror, utterly stunned by the chilling threat. Charismatic executive, finally breaking his silence, uttered, I get it. A painful realization dawned on the female protagonist. The female antagonist was friendly to me because she had an ulterior motive, right? Her thoughts spiraled deeper into despair. Does that mean the charismatic executive only married me for her sake too? The horrifying truth began to piece itself together in the female protagonist's mind. Was our marriage part of their plan? Tears streamed down the female protagonist's face as she desperately thought, I don't want to believe it. Her eyes, wide with despair, reflected the crushing weight of betrayal and heartbreak. A concerned voice cut through her despair as the younger associate reached out, asking, are you all right? The female protagonist slowly looked up, her voice trembling as she recognized him. Is it you? As the female protagonist tried to stammer, I'm Phi Dash, the younger associate angrily called out to her, hey. The younger associate and the female protagonist sat together on a quiet bench, the city lights twinkling in the distance, offering a moment of respite. Younger associate absorbed the shocking revelation, murmuring, I see. So the charismatic executive and the female antagonist had been having an affair for many years. The female protagonist remained silent, lost in thought. The female protagonist's voice was filled with sorrow. I wish it was just a bad dream, because she was always there to help me. The younger associate's thoughts turned to a past incident. Remember the sugar daddy website incident? Don't you think he was the culprit? The female protagonist's eyes widened in a sudden, horrified realization. The female protagonist urgently grabbed the younger associate's arm, exclaiming, wait. Her voice filled with accusation. Back in high school someone uploaded my picture on a shady website. It was your doing, wasn't it? The younger associate looked stunned, stammering, wah, sorry, but... Younger associate explained, my family was poor, so we didn't own a cell phone at that time. There's no way I could pull that off. The female protagonist could only utter a confused, huh. The younger associate asserted that the entire incident must have been a calculated ploy to gain the female protagonist's trust, emphasizing that everything was clearly a setup. The female protagonist's eyes widened in shock, tears welling up as a horrifying realization dawned upon her. Clutching at her chest, she desperately whispered that it couldn't possibly be true, her mind reeling from the younger associate's words. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, unable to accept that her friend, Asuka, could be involved in such a betrayal. She questioned if their entire friendship was a charade from the start, refusing to believe that all those shared smiles had been fake. After some time, the younger associate calmly inquired if she had composed herself, to which the female protagonist quietly responded that she had, somewhat. The female protagonist then asked if repay meant revenge, prompting the younger associate to question if a proper lady like her was truly allowed to pursue such a path. He then clarified repay gratitude in kind, and when she expressed surprise that he knew, he admitted to hearing something similar mentioned back then. The female protagonist revealed that her family motto held a deeper, alternative meaning. The younger associate looked on, utterly confused by her statement. With a dramatic pause, the female protagonist prepared to unveil the true, darker interpretation of her family's saying. Her eyes, now hardened with resolve, reflected a fierce determination as she stood against the backdrop of her past, ready to confront her pain. The true meaning, she declared, was to repay resentment in kind, a revelation that left the younger associate visibly stunned. Heavy silence fell between them, the weight of her words hanging in the air. The female protagonist, on a call, apologetically informed someone named Ryosuke that she needed to use the restroom. She promised to return shortly before ending the call with Ryosuke, her phone screen confirming the disconnection. She expressed gratitude for all the advice she had received, despite finding the latter half of their conversation somewhat unnecessary, thanking him for listening to her story. With a knowing smirk, the younger associate remarked that she was truly an odd one, pulling out a gleaming business card. He offered the card, telling her to contact him if she ever required assistance. The younger associate watched with a faint smile as the female protagonist accepted his business card, a silent understanding passing between them. Reading the card, the female protagonist noticed his title as senior executive, while the younger associate playfully mused that he couldn't exactly put underworld strategist on it. He bid her farewell, stating he would head back first, leaving the female protagonist alone with her thoughts. The female protagonist stared at the business card, deep in contemplation, a storm brewing behind her eyes. As she walked, the names Asuka and Ryosuke echoed in her mind, fueling her resolve for retribution. With a newfound steel in her gaze, the female protagonist vowed to return the despair that had been inflicted upon her. The narrator revealed a painful memory. Back in high school, someone had uploaded the female protagonist's picture to a shady dating website. Whispers and cruel comments like "she's so cold because she's the quiet type" and "filthy whore" followed her, visible on the phone screen as she walked through the school grounds. Her face reflected the silent anguish she endured, her eyes downcast as she bore the weight of the cruel gossip. She walked with her head bowed, a silent testament to her suffering. Her footsteps were heavy, each one carrying the burden of her pain. She passed by, a solitary figure amidst the bustling school life, her presence unnoticed by those who had wronged her. Her world shattered, her perception of reality fracturing like glass under immense pressure. Truth, she realized, had turned out to be nothing but a devastating lie. The narrative shifted to another recent heartbreak. The female protagonist had recently discovered that Ryosuke and Asuka were engaged in an affair. An overhead view showed Ryosuke and another woman, presumably Asuka, sleeping soundly in bed, oblivious to the anguish they caused. It was then, in the quiet of the night, that the female protagonist noticed a crucial detail. Signs of their affair were undeniably all around her, confirmed by incriminating text messages on the phone screen. "Asuka, come to my house tomorrow. Asuka, don't forget it." Her feet carried her away from the scene of betrayal, each step heavy with sorrow and growing resentment. The female protagonist reflected on her inheritance, received after her parents' tragic accident, admitting she lacked the courage to confront it while their passing remained so fresh in her mind. Overwhelmed by her parents' tragic accident, the female protagonist admits she lacked the courage to confront her inheritance directly, so she entrusted its management to Ryosuke instead. Chilling hotel bill from Hotel Royal Seoul flashes before her eyes, revealing a staggering total of 3,064,900. Her mind reels, questioning the enormous sum. The female protagonist stares at the bill, her eyes wide with dawning horror. It was from a famous Korean hotel, explicitly listed for 2 people. Yet, Ryosuke was supposedly on a business trip to Singapore that very day. A terrible thought ignites in her mind. Don't tell me he met up with Asuka there. A painful flashback. Ryosuke and Asuka clink champagne glasses, laughing amidst a shower of falling money. The female protagonist's internal voice screams, "He spent my money to have fun with her." Her jaw clenches, a silent roar of betrayal and fury. The realization hits her with brutal force. Money and coins cascade around her, a symbol of her squandered trust and wealth. She wishes she had realized this devastating truth sooner. A fountain pen glides across a notebook, meticulously documenting a new path. The female protagonist is no longer a victim, she is a strategist. Seated in a bustling cafe, the female protagonist remains focused, her pen moving with purpose. A waiter passes by, oblivious to the intricate plan unfolding at her table. Pair of stylish shoes step into view, signaling an arrival. A voice breaks the silence, apologizing for the delay. The charismatic executive stands over her table, a casual yet intense presence. He simply states so, initiating their crucial conversation. As the charismatic executive takes a seat, he directly asks the female protagonist if she has formulated a plan for retribution. She confirms, revealing she has meticulously detailed everything in her notebook. Female protagonist presents her open notebook filled with her carefully constructed strategy, ready to execute her revenge. The charismatic executive, with a surprised expression, remarks that he initially thought she was writing a poem. He's clearly taken aback by the depth of her planning. He then challenges her, questioning if she can truly trust him after everything. The female protagonist responds with a bewildered huh. The charismatic executive's expression darkens as he reflects on their past. He confesses that regarding the dating site incident, he might have taken advantage of the situation and lied. He explains that his family was poor and he didn't even own a cell phone at the time. He delivers a blunt truth, stating that her current predicament stems from her overly trusting nature. The female protagonist meets his gaze, asserting that she could discern his honesty back then. He questions her judgment, asking, how come? A soft smile touches the female protagonist's lips as she reveals her secret. She remembers his past, specifically that he used to study at the local library. Charismatic executive's eyes widen in surprise, clearly caught off guard by her unexpected memory. A flashback illuminates the charismatic executive and the female protagonist, both students, standing amidst towering bookshelves in a library, a quiet moment from their shared past. In the flashback, the younger female protagonist politely suggests he go ahead, while the younger charismatic executive casually replies he'll read it later, a brief, innocent exchange. The younger charismatic executive walks away, but the younger female protagonist calls out to him, urging him to wait. She questions his uniform, recognizing him as a schoolmate, asking about his year and class. He remains silent, a hint of mystery around him even then. She expresses a desire to message him after finishing her book, then boldly asks for his address, seeking a connection beyond the library. The younger charismatic executive looks down, a shadow of vulnerability on his face, as he admits he doesn't own a cell phone or a PC. The younger female protagonist watches him leave, understanding his circumstances. Back in the present, the female protagonist confirms that she remembered his past, which solidified her belief in his honesty, dispelling any doubts. Charismatic executive, deep in thought, touches his chin, processing her unexpected recollection and the depth of her perception. He admits his surprise at discovering they were in the same class, explaining that he rarely attended back then, which is why he barely remembered her. The female protagonist's expression hardens as she declares it's time to discuss her plan, announcing her first objective: to utterly crush Asuka's dream. The charismatic executive's chibi form lights up with excitement, eagerly asking about the specifics of Asuka's dream. The female protagonist reveals Asuka's grand ambition to appear extensively on TV and achieve global fame, a dream she intends to shatter. Charismatic executive, in his chibi form, dismisses Asuka's dream as predictable, finding her ambitions remarkably easy to guess. He leans forward, intrigued, asking the female protagonist how she intends to execute her plan to dismantle Asuka's aspirations. The female protagonist's gaze softens as she recalls her own past suffering. She recounts being bullied relentlessly due to the dating site incident, with her belongings, like textbooks and gym clothes, frequently hidden. The charismatic executive takes a sip of his drink, listening intently as the female protagonist prepares to unveil the core of her strategy. Her eyes blaze with fierce resolve as she declares her plan. She will hide Asuka's essential belongings, those crucial for her job, mirroring the petty torments she herself endured. The charismatic executive's chibi form recoils in utter shock, his drink spilling as he processes the unexpected, almost childish, nature of her revenge plan. He throws his hands up in exasperation, questioning his own expectations of a proper lady and dismissing her plan as ineffective. He clearly anticipated something more sophisticated. The charismatic executive looks at her seriously, trying to grasp her ultimate goal. He suggests more conventional outcomes, divorce and alimony, or perhaps fixing her marriage. Female protagonist listens, a thoughtful expression on her face, as he continues to speculate on her motivations, unaware of the deeper, darker truth she harbors. The female protagonist listens, a thoughtful expression on her face, as he continues to speculate on her motivations, unaware of the deeper, darker truth she harbors. Now, in a quiet cafe, she sits with a friend, a subtle shift in her demeanor hinting at the unfolding complexities of her life. Her friend leans in, asking the female protagonist if her ambition to be active on television still burns brightly. Her friend presses on, reminding the female protagonist that her family's restaurant is a prestigious establishment frequented even by the Prime Minister and other celebrities. The female protagonist confirms that many visit incognito. A sly smile plays on her friend's lips as she urges the female protagonist to reveal more about the prominent clientele who frequent her family's establishment. The scene abruptly shifts to a luxurious bedroom where the charismatic executive lies in bed, a moment of quiet solitude before the day's deceptions begin. Charismatic executive lies in bed with the female protagonist's friend, who fondly recalls their amazing trip to Korea and suggests another visit soon. He assures her he'll arrange the funds so they can travel anytime. The charismatic executive smiles, telling the female protagonist's friend he has a short business trip next month and they can meet up afterward. Internally, he schemes, knowing if he tells the female protagonist it's another long business trip she won't find out. The female protagonist's friend enthusiastically suggests they make a schedule right away while the charismatic executive rises from the bed, declaring he'll take a shower first. The female protagonist's friend sits on the bed, looking through a small book. A piece of paper slips from its pages and drifts to the floor. The fallen paper is revealed to be an ultrasound image, its contents hinting at a significant, unspoken truth. The female protagonist's friend picks up the ultrasound, her brow furrowed in thought as she recalls receiving it from the nurse on the female protagonist's behalf when she accompanied her to a checkup. Holding a glass of wine, the female protagonist's friend inwardly muses, believing she can continue to indulge in beauty treatments and plastic surgeries as long as she has access to the female protagonist's wealth, ensuring she remains the best woman. With a chilling smile, the female protagonist's friend clenches the ultrasound, her eyes gleaming with malice as she declares her true intention to never share a single penny with the female protagonist. Female protagonist's friend, still holding her wine, looks surprised as she answers her phone, uttering a simple hello. The charismatic executive's eye widens in shock, a single word escaping his lips, "Really?" The charismatic executive exclaims in disbelief, asking if they mean the super-famous comedian. His caller, Asuka, confirms it's indeed Nara Akira and that her account has caught his attention. Asuka, beaming with excitement, asks the female protagonist if the news isn't unbelievable, marveling at how great it is. The female protagonist sincerely congratulates her, exclaiming that her dream has come true. The female protagonist offers a seemingly warm "I'm happy for you too" to Asuka, but a dark internal monologue reveals her true, chilling sentiment. "Asuka, please be more and more happy, because the more you enjoy it, the greater the despair you'll feel when you fall." Ominous atmosphere deepens, a silent testament to the female protagonist's dark intentions. The bustling city street is alive with activity, cars moving along the road beneath towering buildings. Inside a car, the charismatic executive points out to the female protagonist, simply stating, "It's her." Asuka walks confidently down the street, a radiant smile on her face, clearly elated by recent events. Female protagonist recalls, telling Asuka, "Back then, I received a job offer from Nara Akira's show." Asuka, beaming with excitement, asks the female protagonist if the news isn't unbelievable, marveling at how great it is. The female protagonist sincerely congratulates her, exclaiming that her dream has come true. Asuka recounts how her manager warned her that it's dangerous to anger Nara Akira. The female protagonist, feigning innocence, asks why. Asuka confidently declares her intention to make Nara Akira take a liking to her, aiming to further elevate her career. The female protagonist, with a seemingly supportive smile, assures her that she's beautiful and smart, so it's sure to work out. Female protagonist's eye gleams with a sinister intent as she thinks, "Here it comes." Asuka looks on, a puzzled expression on her face, unaware of the female protagonist's hidden machinations. The female protagonist extends an envelope towards Asuka, suggesting, "How about you use this?" Asuka, curious, asks what the item is as the female protagonist hands her the mysterious envelope. Asuka's eyes widen in shock as she glimpses the contents of the envelope. Asuka excitedly exclaims, recognizing the ticket as an exclusive pass to a celebrity beauty salon, accessible only through referral. The female protagonist confirms, stating that with it, a reservation can be made immediately. Still reeling from surprise, Asuka turns to the female protagonist, demanding to know how she managed to acquire such an exclusive item. The female protagonist offers a knowing, sly smile, leaving Asuka's question hanging in the air unanswered, her true intentions veiled. The female protagonist, with a knowing smile, explains that the item was a gift from her mother, but since she has no interest in it, she is offering it to the recipient. Overjoyed, Asuka thanks the female protagonist profusely and declares that she will make a reservation immediately. Asuka, with a blissful expression, savors the moment while looking forward to her pampering as the female protagonist watches her with a subtle smile. In a sly internal monologue, the female protagonist reveals that the gift was never from her mother but was a calculated part of a plan she crafted with Morinaga-san. A dazzling flash of light illuminates the scene, signaling a dramatic transition to the next phase of the intricate scheme. Chapter title appears with an ominous aura, announcing the next stage of the story and hinting at the unfolding drama. The charismatic executive speaks into his phone, confirming Asuka's entry into the building and giving the command to proceed with their operation. Inside the car, the female protagonist observes the grand building, remarking on its gorgeous and opulent appearance. The charismatic executive warns the female protagonist not to be deceived by the building's sparkling facade, revealing it is a front for shady business and that he once rescued the owner from a tight spot. With a confident smirk, the charismatic executive explains that since his intervention, the owner has been in his debt, securing their strategic advantage. The female protagonist smiles coyly, expressing her eager anticipation for Asuka's reaction once she emerges from the building. Asuka's eyes widen in awe as she steps into the opulent interior, completely taken aback by the dazzling and luxurious surroundings. Asuka gazes around the lavish lobby, exclaiming that the building resembles the most luxurious hotels found abroad. A shimmering cascade of light signals a shift in the setting, guiding the focus to the next stage of Asuka's experience within the luxury spa. Holding the pink card, Asuka smugly thinks that Emi is a useful woman, concluding that such pampering would be wasted on Emi and that she will enjoy it on her behalf. With her eyes closed, Asuka internally boasts that her flawless skin is only natural, though she admits to investing heavily in beauty products every month. Asuka's voice queries from off-panel, her curiosity piqued as she asks about the cream's specific effects. Beaming with delight, Asuka thinks to herself how incredibly lucky she is, convinced that this cream will help her win over Nara Akira. Asuka's expression shifts to discomfort as she feels a sudden, sharp pain, questioning why the luxury cream is causing such an intense sensation. An agonizing scream echoes in Asuka's mind as the pain intensifies, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief at the unbearable sensation. Asuka jerks upright and tears at her towel, her face burning beneath a mask as she desperately cries out for help. Hanma finally approaches and apologizes for the delay. Asuka, writhing on the floor, screams that her face hurts, demanding to know what he put on her and ordering him to bring water. Desperate, Asuka demands a mirror. Hanma nervously points toward one, barely able to stammer out the words. Asuka scrambles across the floor on her hands and knees, driven by a desperate need to see the extent of the damage to her face. Asuka's face is a mask of horror, red and grotesquely swollen. She stares in shock at her own disfigured reflection. A hand holds up a smartphone, capturing a clear image of Asuka's horrified, swollen face reflected on the screen. Charismatic executive smirks at the image on his phone, clearly satisfied with the execution of the plan as the female protagonist watches. The female protagonist asks if Asuka will attempt to sue the salon. The charismatic executive reassures her, confidently stating that such an outcome is impossible. The stern director approaches, looking shocked, and asks what is wrong. Asuka, her face grotesquely swollen and red, screams back, demanding to know why they applied that damn cream to her. The female protagonist, her face grotesquely swollen and red, screams back, demanding to know why they applied that damn cream to her. The stern director, looking utterly shocked, admits he has never witnessed such a severe reaction from a customer before. She retorts furiously, reminding him that regardless of his experience, it is happening to her now. The stern director, holding a small jar of the problematic cream, finally understands the situation. A sharp glint in the stern director's eye indicates his sudden realization. With a forced, apologetic tone, the stern director suggests that perhaps their premium cream was simply a little too much for the female protagonist's sensitive skin. The female protagonist, utterly dumbfounded, demands clarification. The stern director continues, explaining that this particular product boasts the most luxurious active ingredients they've ever utilized. The stern director concludes, stating there's a high chance it reacted strongly. The female protagonist's face contorts with rage, accusing him of implying she's been using cheap products and dismissing his explanation as utter nonsense. Her fury reaching a boiling point, the female protagonist screams a threat to sue them. From a distance, the shadowy pursuer smirks, confident that the female protagonist would accept compensation money. He notes that, as a result, she won't be able to show her face in public until the swelling completely subsides. Inside a car, the shadowy pursuer comments on the stern director's apparent familiarity with such incidents, revealing that this very situation is how the stern director became indebted to him. The female protagonist's internal thoughts echo her shock, labeling the establishment a truly scary beauty salon. Shadowy pursuer glances back, noticing the female protagonist emerging from the building, now wearing a hat. Distraught and still visibly swollen, the female protagonist frantically cancels an important recording session, adamantly refusing to go and instructing them to simply say she's ill. A finger decisively presses the end call button on a smartphone. Above her hat, a thought bubble expresses the female protagonist's deep, agonizing question, just why? Tears stream down the female protagonist's swollen face as she clutches her phone, questioning why she has to endure such torment. Concerned woman with short blue hair approaches the female protagonist, asking if something is amiss, eliciting a shocked exclamation from her. Panicked, the female protagonist shouts, "Don't look," as she flees, desperately trying to conceal her face from the curious stares of passers-by. From the driver's seat, the shadowy pursuer watches the female protagonist's desperate flight and coolly declares, "We did it." He then tells her he is indebted to her and wishes to repay her. The female protagonist, confused by his offer of repayment, asks if he means a reward. The female protagonist smiles, offering him a small amount of 10 million yen as a reward. The shadowy pursuer exclaims in shock at the mention of 10 million, while the female protagonist smugly asks if it's not enough. With a knowing smile, the female protagonist clarifies that 10 million yen is merely 10% of the total amount she intends to give him for his assistance. The shadowy pursuer's chibi thought bubble expresses his stunned realization, it's just 10% of the total. He begins to calculate the full reward if he completes her revenge. The female protagonist's smile turns sinister as she declares her intention to repay him with a staggering 100 million yen as a token of her gratitude. The shadowy pursuer is left utterly speechless, his face a mask of shock at the exorbitant sum. A cunning smile spreads across the shadowy pursuer's face as he admits he initially considered introducing her to a lawyer. However, he now understands that a simple legal punishment won't satisfy her unique idea of repaying her tormentors. Dark, swirling background frames a vision of the female protagonist and the charismatic executive embracing as the female protagonist's voice echoes her fierce desire to repay those two with her own hands. The female protagonist's eyes burn with an intense, unwavering determination. The female protagonist instructs the shadowy pursuer that she will repay him the full amount once her revenge is complete, promising to discuss the details later. He simply replies, "I understand." A sinister grin spreads across the shadowy pursuer's face as he contemplates crafting an even more elaborate revenge. His internal monologue emphasizes the necessity of repaying them in kind, a fitting retribution. Narrator reveals that the female protagonist's parents left her not only inheritance money but also other significant assets. The narrator continues, stating that these assets include her parents' personal connections. The document shows a picture of Nara Akira-san and Emi 7yo. The title card for Chapter 6 appears, followed by a prompt to hear from the next person. The speaker at a podium addresses an audience, asking what kind of face they most desire, then begins to describe a typical face nowadays youngsters would. The female protagonist's swollen face contorts with rage as she clenches her fist, lamenting that she would have become the speaker's favorite if she had been present. On a table, a glass of wine sits beside a glowing smartphone, signaling an incoming message or call. The smartphone screen displays a message from Yoshida Emi, inquiring about the female protagonist's condition and the swelling, adding that she has something important to discuss. Emi, her concern evident, tells the female protagonist she's glad she's fully healed now, having been so worried. The female protagonist, still reeling from the experience, exclaims that the salon was truly awful. Emi, overcome with guilt, apologizes profusely, believing that because of her, the female protagonist missed out on a crucial chance. Internally, the female protagonist seethes, cursing the person who caused her trouble, yet acknowledges their continued usefulness. Female protagonist offers a comforting smile, reminding Emi that she had never visited that salon before either, and nobody could have seen such an outcome coming. She assures Emi that it was never her fault. Emi's guilt persists as she laments that if she hadn't given the female protagonist that ticket by now, things might have been different. The female protagonist quickly reassures her it's really all right, then shifts the conversation, asking what Emi wanted to tell her. Emi hesitates, beginning to speak with a drawn-out "actually." Emi gently places a photograph on the table, revealing an image of a smiling man alongside a young girl. The female protagonist gasps in disbelief, recognizing the young girl in the photo as herself, and demands to know how Emi could possibly have a picture with Nara Akira. Emi explains that due to privacy policy she couldn't reveal it earlier, but Nara-san is a regular at her restaurant. The female protagonist's eyes widen in utter shock at the revelation. Emi reveals that ever since her parents passed away, Nara Akira has consistently visited her restaurant once a month. Emi then directly asks the female protagonist if she would ask Nara Akira to meet with her. Emi explains her motivation, stating that since the female protagonist had such a hard time because of the ticket she gave her, she wants to make up for it somehow. Emi enthusiastically agrees to the plan. Meanwhile, the female protagonist's expression twists into a sinister smile as she thinks of Emi as her useful asset, secretly glad she managed to control her temper earlier. The female protagonist, with a knowing look, muses to herself that despite the minor setback, everything is still proceeding exactly as planned. Emi notices the female protagonist's distant expression and asks what's wrong. The female protagonist, feigning hesitation, inwardly thinks she shouldn't talk about it, but since Emi is too pretty, she ought to know. The female protagonist's expression shifts to one of intrigued surprise, internally thinking, "I see, just my luck." The female protagonist clasps Emi's hands, reassuring her that it's okay and she will refuse Nara Akira if he tries anything untoward. Emi declares her resolve, stating she doesn't care if Nara Akira ends up hating her, as it's still better than not trying at all. The female protagonist agrees to contact Nara Akira but advises Emi to please be careful. The female protagonist's face splits into a chilling duality, one half a polite smile, the other a sinister smirk. She internally confirms she knows, believing things will go perfectly as long as Nara Akira doesn't try anything, and as long as she leaves him alone with Emi, knowing he won't make a move on her. Emi, oblivious to the female protagonist's true intentions, muses that Nara-san is an upright gentleman, certain he despises prostitution. Emi recalls a past incident where Nara Akira, with palpable anger, stopped a drunk customer from accosting her mother, a memory that still clearly shows his righteous indignation. Female protagonist's cunning smile widens as she thinks that if that woman tries to seduce such a man, she will undoubtedly be made to pay a huge price. A dark, satisfied smirk plays on the female protagonist's lips as she gazes into her teacup, a sinister reflection staring back. She confirms her malicious wish. "Yes, for sure. That's exactly what I wish will happen." Now dressed in traditional attire, the female protagonist expresses her extreme nervousness, claiming she can't handle it. Emi, calm and composed, gestures towards the door, informing the female protagonist that they've been waiting there. Nara Akira, identified as a pro comedian and film director, waves with a warm smile, greeting Emi-chan. Emi thanks Nara-san for joining them today, then begins to introduce the female protagonist. The female protagonist bows respectfully, introducing herself to Nara-sama and expressing her pleasure in meeting him. Nara Akira, with a friendly gesture, tells them there's no need to be so stiff, suggesting they chat leisurely over a few drinks. As they settle around the low table, the female protagonist immediately flatters Nara Akira, stating her family has always watched all of his shows since she was young. The female protagonist continues her effusive praise, expressing how impressed she was by the sensibility of his first movie as a director, admitting she couldn't help shedding tears in the cinema. She adds that even in his later movie, which she initially thought would be heavy on romance, the complex story halfway through truly amazed her. Female protagonist beams, her effusive praise clearly delighting the stern director, who chuckles warmly and remarks that she is truly a fun young lady, no wonder she's Emi-chan's close friend. With a cunning glint in her eye and a satisfied smirk, the female protagonist reveals her true agenda, stating she ordered Ryosuke to binge-watch all of the director's films and provide a detailed impression of each one. Meanwhile, Ryosuke, engrossed in the director's filmography, sends a detailed text message lamenting the emotional impact of the first film, praising the second's entertainment but admitting he fell asleep during the third. The reply is a stern command: rewatch the third film first. The stern director, still smiling, informs the female protagonist that he has another special TV program scheduled for next month and will personally recommend her to appear on it. Overwhelmed with joy, the female protagonist exclaims her profound gratitude for the stern director's generous consideration. Another woman, named Asuka, playfully declares the female protagonist lucky, to which the female protagonist, beaming, thanks Emi profusely for the incredible opportunity. As the scene shifts, a quiet thought echoes, it's about time. Back at his desk, Ryosuke rubs his temples, a clear sign of exhaustion as he continues his arduous task. A chef, kneeling respectfully at the entrance, apologetically announces an interruption to their private gathering. The female protagonist's eye glints with recognition, her inner thoughts praising Morinaga-san's impeccable timing. With a slight movement, the female protagonist politely excuses herself from the room. Morinaga-san leans in, speaking quietly to the female protagonist, their conversation hushed and discreet. Morinaga-san apologizes to Nara-san, explaining that a customer has fallen unconscious and he needs to step out to assess the situation. Stern director quickly grants permission, urging Morinaga-san to hurry, while the female protagonist apologizes for the unexpected disruption to their dinner party. The female protagonist offers a final apology before departing, assuring the stern director he can relax, to which he simply replies with a grateful thank you. A shadowy cloud forms, revealing the name Asuka, as the female protagonist's sly smile deepens, her inner thoughts declaring, now's my chance. The female protagonist, ever attentive, offers the stern director another pour, who graciously accepts, apologizing for the slight trouble. A menacing smile stretches across the female protagonist's face as dark thoughts swirl. Your obstacle has gone. Come on, do something to me. With a quick, decisive pour, the female protagonist mentally urges, quick, now, while outwardly sharing a laugh with the stern director. The stern director, observing Emi-chan's continued absence, suggests they conclude the evening, as she likely won't be returning. The female protagonist's eyes widen in utter shock, her carefully laid plan seemingly falling apart. Her eyes burning with frustration, the female protagonist seethes internally, questioning why the stern director isn't making a move despite her presence, ultimately deciding she'll have to take the initiative herself. With a sudden, dramatic lean, the female protagonist presses herself against the stern director, who reacts with a startled "oh, no." Feigning a tipsy smile, the female protagonist murmurs that she might be a little drunk, while the stern director remains silent, his expression unreadable. Female protagonist observes the stern director's sudden stiffness, her thoughts swirling with self-assurance, believing no beautiful young lady would willingly throw herself at even a famous man like this. Looking up with a pleading gaze, the female protagonist directly asks the stern director, Nara-san, actually, I want to stay the night with you today. The stern director's expression softens slightly, and he replies with a resigned, I understand. Triumphant glint flashes in the female protagonist's eye as her thoughts explode with joy. Yes, I got him. I'm so happy. Unbeknownst to them, the charismatic executive watches the scene unfold on a monitor, a blurry image of the female protagonist's sly smile and the stern director confirming her perceived victory. A chilling, menacing smile returns to the female protagonist's face, her inner voice demanding, you better give us something worth watching. A promotional message for Kenscans appears, inviting readers to join their community and support their work. Screen transitions to a bold title card announcing the beginning of Chapter 7. The female protagonist, clinging to the stern director's arm, suggests they move to another location. The stern director blushes, looking away nervously, and suggests they should inform Emi-chan first before moving. The female protagonist's eye twinkles mischievously as she observes the stern director's blushing face, finding his nervousness endearing. Female protagonist dismisses the stern director's suggestion, stating there's no need to inform Emi-chan, prompting him to question her reasoning. The female protagonist's thoughts turn condescending, believing Emi-chan is too naive to comprehend mature adult relationships. With a malicious grin, the female protagonist cradles a doll-like figure, her thoughts labeling Emi-chan as merely a sheltered, ignorant young lady unaware of the world's harsh realities. Female protagonist dangles the doll, her thoughts feigning affection, claiming Emi-chan's endearing naivety made her want to offer support, but the implication hangs heavy with a dark but. The charismatic executive's eye narrows, a cold, calculating intensity burning within as he continues to observe the unfolding drama. The female protagonist leans in close to the stern director, a sly smile gracing her lips, hinting at a manipulative charm as she engages him. Another woman, an associate, informs the female protagonist that someone has been speaking ill of her. The female protagonist, however, appears unfazed, stating she doesn't mind it at all. A confident smirk plays on the female protagonist's lips as she internally declares that the more her detractors speak, the worse their own situation will become. The stern director, his face flushed with excitement, reacts to the female protagonist's words, clearly captivated by her presence. The female protagonist observes the stern director's flushed face, a knowing thought crossing her mind. Even the infamous Nara Akira is just an old man, easily swayed. The stern director reaches into his pocket, asking if he can make a quick phone call, prompting a curious "huh" from the female protagonist. The stern director inquires about the female protagonist's agency, to which she promptly replies, "Spotlight Agency." As the stern director makes a call, apologizing for the late hour to President Miyama and thanking him for past assistance, the female protagonist wonders about his intentions. The female protagonist's eyes widen in shock, realizing that President Miyama is the owner of a major TV channel. She marvels at the stern director's influence, noting how he swiftly arranged a special TV program for her immediately after asking about her agency. Overcome with joy, the female protagonist exclaims, likening the stern director to a god or a Buddha, praising his incredible power to directly approach the president. In a vivid fantasy, the female protagonist envisions herself on a throne, laughing triumphantly, convinced that this is the glorious beginning of her stardom. The stern director, with a slight smile, informs the person on the phone that he has an important matter to discuss regarding an actress named Asuka from Spotlight Agency. The stern director reacts with a surprised "huh" to the person on the other end, while the female protagonist, still hopeful, thanks him before he ends the call. The female protagonist, now confused and worried, asks the stern director to clarify his words, but he simply reiterates that it is exactly as he said. A look of horror overtakes the female protagonist's face as she realizes the implication: she will never appear in any show associated with him. The stern director's expression hardens as he ominously states that her troubles are far from over. The television screen flickers with static as the stern director explains his ruthless policy: anyone he refuses to co-star with will be permanently banned from television. The female protagonist cries out in disbelief, demanding to know how he could do such a thing, while the stern director angrily questions her lack of understanding. The stern director clenches his fist, revealing his twisted mission: to drive out anyone he deems unworthy from showbiz for the sake of the world. His face contorted in anger, the stern director declares this to be his way of repaying the entertainment industry that elevated his status. The female protagonist screams in utter despair, her face a mask of terror and heartbreak. Kneeling desperately, the female protagonist begs the stern director, pleading for a chance, but he dismisses her, stating his decision is final. The stern director exhales sharply, then brings up the female protagonist's past careless remarks about Emi-chan, adding another layer to his condemnation. Female protagonist's face crumples in fresh tears, her "wah" a choked sound of utter shock and realization. The stern director rages, condemning her audacity to speak ill of a friend who helped her, declaring he cannot trust someone so easily swayed. With a final declaration, the stern director turns his back on the female protagonist, stating he is excusing himself. In a desperate last attempt, the female protagonist's hand shoots out, gripping the stern director's ankle, refusing to let him leave. The stern director yells, "Hey, you," as the female protagonist desperately clings to his leg, pleading for just one chance, unable to lose this opportunity. Tears streaming down her face, the female protagonist screams in desperation, defiantly declaring she will never let him go. The stern director's face contorts in fury as he commands her to stop this nonsense immediately. With forceful intent, the stern director's hand pushes down on the female protagonist, attempting to break her desperate hold. The female protagonist is left crumpled on the floor as the stern director dismissively calls her a crazy girl. Her face contorted in anguish and tears, the female protagonist endures the crushing weight of her shattered dreams. As the stern director walks away, the female protagonist desperately calls out his name, a final, despairing plea echoing in the room. As the stern director turns to leave, the female protagonist bows deeply, her voice tinged with apology for the disrupted dinner, yet her true concern surfaces as she inquires about the customer's well-being. The female protagonist reassures him that the customer is thankfully much better and has already gone home, prompting the stern director to express his relief. As the stern director inquires if she too is returning home, the female protagonist's expression shifts, her thoughts immediately turning to a pressing question: where's Asuka? The stern director offers a grim apology, admitting he might have overstepped, but his stern demeanor suggests his resolve remains unwavering. places a hand on the female protagonist's shoulder, sternly advising her to reconsider her friendship with that woman, leaving her visibly surprised. A wave of dread washes over the female protagonist as she quietly voices her deepest fear. Did something happen with Asuka? With a final, dismissive statement, the stern director turns and walks away, leaving the female protagonist to ponder his ominous words. The female protagonist peeks from behind a sliding door, her eyes wide with apprehension, a silent worry etched across her face. Suddenly, an enraged woman, her face contorted in fury and tears, confronts someone named Emmy, accusing her. This is different from what you said. Female protagonist, utterly bewildered, asks what the enraged woman is talking about, while the woman glares in silent frustration. The enraged woman's internal thoughts betray her despair. She realizes she cannot tell the female protagonist what truly happened, fearing relief rather than sympathy. Stuttering, the enraged woman fabricates a desperate lie, claiming, "Nara-san almost attacked me." The female protagonist's eyes widen in disbelief, her hands flying to her mouth as she gasps in utter shock at the sudden, baseless accusation. The enraged woman collapses into hysterical tears, clinging to the female protagonist and exclaiming how terrified and horrible the experience was. Guilt washes over the female protagonist, who believes the fabricated tale, blaming herself for leaving the enraged woman alone with him. The female protagonist suggests reporting the incident to the police, but the enraged woman panics, pleading not to, fearing it would destroy her chance in the entertainment industry. As the female protagonist hesitates, the enraged woman desperately begs her to keep the incident a secret, a plea for her future in the industry. A smug observer, dressed in a sharp white suit, remarks on it as perfect acting, pondering why she never achieved popularity. The smug observer muses that Yoshida also possesses potential, while in the background, the female protagonist reacts with a sharp jolt of realization. The female protagonist bows respectfully, thanking the smug observer for his support, to which he coolly reciprocates. Smug observer observes, noting the female protagonist has successfully crushed her dream of TV stardom, then probes for her next calculated move. The female protagonist responds with a sly smile, confirming she has an abundance of plans already in motion. A swirling vortex of purple and crimson engulfs the scene, signaling a descent into a much darker, more chaotic reality. The enraged woman, now clad in provocative attire, stands defiantly, her voice dripping with venom as she shouts about someone acting all high and mighty. Her face contorted in rage, the enraged woman vehemently declares her refusal of any withering old man, regardless of his monetary offers. A sharp crack echoes as an unseen whip strikes, eliciting a sudden, pained ACK from the male victim. The enraged woman, whip in hand, steps on the groveling man, sharply reprimanding him for making any noise. Faint, pained gasp escapes into the dark, star-dusted room, hinting at the ongoing torment amidst the scattered implements of restraint. The male victim, bound and splayed, looks up with a contented sigh, remarking that it's been a while since they've engaged in such roleplay. The male victim praises the woman, affirming her as definitely the best, Asuka, as she stands over him. Her face contorted in a furious snarl, the enraged woman screams at him to shut up, declaring that even hitting him hasn't relieved her immense stress. The male victim, confused by her outburst, asks what is wrong, then inquires if something happened with the female protagonist, Nara Akira. The enraged woman, triggered by the mention of the female protagonist, erupts in a furious demand for silence, the painful memory of the female protagonist's earlier plea flashing through her mind as she shouts, "I don't want to be reminded of it anymore." Her eye twitches with raw fury, a silent testament to the boiling rage within, emphasizing her intense hatred. The enraged woman fumes, unable to comprehend the female protagonist's popularity, angrily calling the male victim a pervert. He calmly retorts, reminding her that everyone has two sides, including herself. Still reeling from her inability to understand the female protagonist's rising popularity, the enraged woman lashes out, her voice sharp as she commands the male victim to silence himself. Despite the harshness, the male victim lets out a sigh of pleasure, seemingly reveling in the moment of punishment. The enraged woman turns away, her long hair swaying, as the male victim remains in his position, the session seemingly concluded. The male victim sits up, a hint of disappointment in his voice as he questions if their encounter has already ended. The charismatic executive confronts the female protagonist, asking if she truly cannot forgive her beloved husband, hinting at a deeper betrayal. Flashback reveals the male victim, now identified as the husband, gleefully clutching stacks of cash, money fluttering around him. The female protagonist observes, thinking how harmless and nice he seemed on the outside. The female protagonist, wearing a wedding ring, lies in quiet contemplation, her internal monologue declaring that his hidden deceit is the most unforgivable part. The charismatic executive reacts with a questioning, "Huh?" The husband's sinister smile is juxtaposed with a mask, revealing his true nature. The female protagonist, with a determined glint in her eyes, declares her intention to make him pay for deceiving her for half her life. Female protagonist, resolute in her plan, states her desire to save the revelation of their affair for last. The charismatic executive questions her strategy, suggesting that striking them both simultaneously would be the quickest and most effective way to enact her revenge. The female protagonist counters, explaining that a swift punishment would end her vengeance too quickly, preventing her from truly repaying them as she desires, as she is still far from satisfied. The charismatic executive acknowledges her words with a simple "is that so?" as the scene shifts to a serene cup of tea. The female protagonist then adds, "You see." Chilling smile spreads across the female protagonist's face as she prepares the tea, revealing her true nature as someone who savors her revenge, saving the most satisfying moments for last. A moment of silent understanding passes between the female protagonist and the charismatic executive as he processes her chilling declaration. The female protagonist confirms her intent to target her husband's other weakness, something beyond his mistress, Asuka. The charismatic executive simply responds, "I see," grasping the depth of her plan. The charismatic executive presses for details, asking the female protagonist what her husband's other weakness could possibly be. Scene transitions, marking the beginning of Chapter 8 as the intricate threads of revenge continue to weave. The younger associate greets a colleague, Saka-san, with a cheerful "good morning," beginning a new day at the office. The female protagonist, now identified as Tanaka-san, returns the greeting with a warm smile, maintaining her professional facade. The younger associate praises the female protagonist for her swift delivery of materials, expressing amazement at her efficiency. The female protagonist, flattered, graciously accepts the compliment. Another male colleague expresses relief at having the female protagonist on their team, highlighting her value and competence in the workplace. A colleague announces that Saka-kun, the husband, will receive an award from their director for significantly exceeding sales targets. Colleagues applaud the deceitful husband, celebrating his award and reinforcing his carefully constructed image as a successful and well-liked individual. At a restaurant, the mistress, Emi, congratulates Ryosuke on his award, to which he responds with a casual "thanks, Emi," revealing their ongoing affair. A close-up reveals the deceitful husband's internal thoughts, brimming with arrogance and self-satisfaction about his smooth career and easy life, completely unaware of the impending storm. The female protagonist watches, a silent ellipsis hanging in the air, her calm expression belying the intricate revenge plot she is meticulously executing. Female protagonist walks alongside a female colleague, a normal day at the office continuing as she observes her surroundings. A female colleague enthusiastically invites Saka-san, the husband, to join them for a celebratory meal, noting the coincidence and his recent success. The deceitful husband politely declines the invitation, citing a prior appointment, his expression slightly apologetic as he maintains his facade. As the husband departs with his mistress, a female colleague innocently asks if he's on a date with his wife. He vaguely responds, "something like that," while another colleague coos about what a loving husband he is. Deceitful husband waves goodbye to his colleagues, his deception complete as he walks away, leaving them with a false impression of his faithfulness. Yet, beneath his composed facade, the charismatic executive's mind drifted back to a potent memory, a fantasy of submission and control, hinting at desires far removed from his public image. He mused that ever since that day, he simply couldn't move on from the intense roleplay he had experienced with Asuka. Later, under the soft glow of twilight, the scene transitioned to the familiar sign of Tabakuro Station, marking a new setting. Disguised with a cap and mask, the charismatic executive lurked in the shadows, his internal monologue revealing his fear his life would be over if anyone spotted him in this place. Stealthily, the charismatic executive slipped into an adult store, his gaze sweeping over the various items on display. Suddenly, his eyes widened with a gasp, a spark of recognition igniting in his masked gaze. His thoughts fixated on a genuine leather whip priced at a staggering 100,000, a clear desire forming in his mind to use it. Blushing intensely, the charismatic executive found himself unable to contain his excitement, the image of Asuka wielding the whip filling his fantasies. A sigh escaped him as he registered the hefty price tag of 100,000, realizing the item was indeed quite pricey. Just as he considered the cost, two hands, one his own and one belonging to a woman, reached for the coveted whip at the exact same moment. He let out a small sound of surprise as he met the gaze of the female protagonist, both having simultaneously reached for the same item. The hesitant the charismatic executive offered the whip to her, but the female protagonist refused, feeling bad as it seemed to be the last one in stock. Turning slightly, the charismatic executive reiterated, assuring her she really didn't have to mind him. Just as he turned to leave, the female protagonist urgently called out, her hand firmly grasping his arm to stop him. With a bright smile, the female protagonist made an unexpected proposal. Why don't they use the item together? Stunned, the charismatic executive could only manage a bewildered before, with a blush, he hesitantly agreed, okay. The female protagonist beamed, declaring it perfect and explaining that she had been wanting this specific item for a while. With a burst of enthusiasm, the charismatic executive insisted on paying, holding up his card and asking her to wait. Inside his mind, the charismatic executive reveled in his marriage to Emi, grateful that he could freely spend her inheritance, as she had left its management to him. He concluded his internal monologue with a chilling smile, convinced he was indeed a very loving husband despite his clear manipulation of Emi's inheritance. From a distance, a mysterious man with a sly grin watched the charismatic executive, murmuring to himself, "Gotcha." He took the bait. Shirtless and blushing, the charismatic executive envisioned the scenario, realizing they would use the whip while facing mirrors, finding the idea utterly lewd. His gaze fixed on Yukiko-san, clad in a dominant outfit and holding a whip. The charismatic executive's thoughts were consumed by her allure, finding her incredibly hot. With a chilling smile, Yukiko-san's voice echoed in his mind, chastising him for getting so excited, labeling him a naughty child who deserved punishment. His eye wide with exhilaration, the charismatic executive found the transformation awesome, marveling at how she seemed like a completely different person. Yukiko-san's voice cut through his thoughts, her whip raised as she declared his face so disgusting. On the floor, eyes glazed over and drooling, the charismatic executive ecstatically declared, "This is the best." Fantasy abruptly ended as the scene shifted back to the mundane reality of the office, where colleagues worked diligently at their desks. A female colleague approached the charismatic executive, commenting on his noticeably good mood recently, to which he responded with a faint "really?" She pressed further, wondering if his cheerfulness stemmed from an upcoming award or perhaps something positive unfolding in his private life. Charismatic executive chuckled, vaguely attributing his good mood to both reasons, to which his colleague simply replied, "I see." At the very same time, the scene shifted to a bustling photo studio where a photographer captured images of three poised women. One of the women, the female protagonist, seethed internally, cursing her fate and wondering why she had to stand behind an ugly pig, finding the situation utterly vexing. The photographer called out, announcing a 10-minute break for everyone. One of the models responded with a cheerful "okay," then excitedly shared with her colleagues that her boyfriend had made a reservation at a Chinese restaurant for that night. Her colleagues reacted with impressed exclamations of "wow," asking which restaurant it was. The first model proudly revealed that her boyfriend had booked the highest spot in Chinatown for them, eliciting a jealous "wow, I'm so jealous" from another. The younger associate walks through a pristine, brightly lit hallway, a faint, almost magical trail of light arcing above him, hinting at the fantastical elements woven into their modern world. Suddenly, his phone vibrates, startling him. He glances at the screen, a hopeful, slightly flushed expression on his face as he wonders aloud if it could be Yukiko-san calling. The screen, however, reveals the name Asuka, and the younger associate's expression shifts to one of mild disappointment as he acknowledges the caller. On the other end, the female protagonist, looking glamorous, answers the phone, addressing him as Ryosuke. She immediately declares her craving for Chinese food and instructs him to make a reservation at Jakuro for today. The younger associate is taken aback, questioning the suddenness of the request and stating that it would be impossible to secure a reservation on such short notice. Another model, observing the conversation, looks on with a knowing, slightly smug expression, her arms crossed. A second model, with short hair, leans in conspiratorially, her hand cupped to her mouth as if sharing a secret or reacting to the unfolding drama. The first model dismisses the younger associate's concerns, confidently asserting that a same-day reservation at such a prestigious place is indeed possible. Female protagonist beams with delight, expressing her happiness and encouraging the younger associate to do his best to secure the reservation. The female protagonist concludes the call, reiterating her expectations and expressing her anticipation for the meal, a satisfied smile playing on her lips as she ends the conversation. Another colleague approaches the female protagonist, mentioning that she overheard the conversation and asks if she's truly dining at Jakuro. A social media post appears, showcasing delectable Chinese dishes like roasted duck and various dim sum, confirming a successful dining experience at Jakuro. Female protagonist looks at her phone with a sly smile, clearly pleased with the outcome of her request. Dining across from the younger associate, the female protagonist praises him for securing the reservation, while he modestly admits he only managed it by invoking the name of his company's executive, Tabata-san. The female protagonist, with a mischievous grin, realizes that the old woman he mentioned earlier must be a regular at the restaurant, enabling quick reservations. She suggests they continue to use this method in the future. Younger associate, looking annoyed, asks her to stop referring to the person as an old woman, explaining that this individual has been taking care of him for a long time. The younger associate's disembodied voice asserts that this secret technique is reserved for important people, making this instance an exception. The female protagonist, in response, teases him, asking if he's trying to threaten her. The younger associate clarifies his intentions, emphasizing that he didn't mean to threaten her. The female protagonist then playfully remarks that his good looks are his best weapon, especially with such an important person caring for him. The younger associate stares blankly ahead, a thoughtful expression on his face, seemingly pondering the female protagonist's words. As they continue their meal, the female protagonist notices the younger associate's distraction and asks if he's even listening to her. The younger associate quickly snaps back to attention, assuring her that he is, of course, listening. The female protagonist, suspicious, demands to know what he's looking at, her hand reaching for his phone. The female protagonist's intense gaze falls upon the phone, her eyes narrowed with suspicion as she wonders if he's plotting something behind her back. The younger associate, flustered, vehemently denies any plotting, exclaiming that he never hides anything from her. The female protagonist, still looking somewhat unconvinced, acknowledges his statement with a sigh, hinting at a lingering doubt. Later, the younger associate arrives home, announcing his return as he steps through the door, briefcase in hand. The female protagonist greets him warmly, asking if he'd like some chizuki or another dish. He declines, explaining he's full after attending an extravagant drinking party. The female protagonist smiles softly, understanding, and informs him that she has already warmed his bath. Younger associate expresses his gratitude, stating he will soak for a bit before going to bed. He begins to undress, shedding his shirt in the bathroom, preparing for a relaxing bath. His phone lights up on a nearby surface, displaying the time 23:05, a subtle indication of the late hour. Younger associate, now shirtless, looks at his phone with a surprised expression, having noticed a new notification. A message from Yukiko appears on his phone screen, simply asking, "Can you play on Friday?" The question hangs in the air, hinting at a new development. The scene shifts to an exterior shot of a building with a prominent sign reading SM Bar illuminated in a soft, inviting glow. Inside the bar, the female protagonist, dressed in a striking red dress, greets the younger associate with a welcoming smile, noting that he has finally arrived. Female protagonist, standing beside the younger associate, asks if he finds the place quite nice, a subtle smile playing on her lips. The female protagonist suggests they get straight to business, presenting the younger associate with a neatly folded costume and instructing him to change into it. The younger associate lets out a surprised act as a whip strikes his bound thigh, the ropes digging in tightly. Suspended by ropes, blindfolded and clad in a revealing outfit, the younger associate struggles slightly, letting out a soft huff. Despite the predicament, the younger associate's face flushes, sweat beading as he pleads, "More. Please punish me more." Female protagonist, whip in hand and a chilling smile on her face, asks if she should shut his noisy mouth. A gloved hand swiftly stuffs a fishnet gag into the younger associate's mouth, eliciting a muffled lie from him. The female protagonist leans in, her expression fierce, as the younger associate struggles to utter a muffled MMPH. Gagged and wide-eyed, the younger associate's desire remains clear, his internal thoughts screaming, "Ooh, more, more." Suddenly, the younger associate's eye widens in alarm, a silent exclamation mark hanging over him as crimson spatters appear in the air. The vibrant, almost dreamlike atmosphere shatters, replaced by a chaotic shower of dark purple and pink particles. From behind, the younger associate remains bound, while in the background, three women, his co-workers, stare in utter shock at the scene unfolding. The scene is enveloped in a cascade of dark blue and purple hues, streaked with sharp white lines, amplifying the sudden, jarring reality. The younger associate hangs suspended, his co-workers frozen in disbelief, witnessing the bizarre spectacle. The three women gasp in horror, one calling out "Saka-san," while another stammers, "What are you?" The younger associate's eyes widen further in mortified recognition, his gagged mouth struggling to form a desperate HMMPH, "Tanaka-san." With a sly glance over her shoulder, the female protagonist feigns surprise, asking, Are you girls his acquaintance?" as the younger associate can only manage a choked MMPH. A mischievous smile plays on the female protagonist's lips as she quips, "Pardon, I should have unplugged it first." A gloved hand quickly pulls the gag from the younger associate's mouth, who gasps lie in surprise. The three women remain wide-eyed, one clutching a glass, all still reeling from the shocking sight. One of the women, visibly shaken, nervously declares, I think I should go home." Another woman exclaims "Wah" in agreement, while the third adds, "Me too," all eager to escape the humiliating spectacle of the younger associate. The younger associate's face is a mask of terror, drool escaping his mouth as he tries to plead, "Please Wah." A door flashes into view, surrounded by speed lines, indicating a swift departure or entrance. The female protagonist feigns surprise with an "Oh my," while the younger associate looks utterly stunned. The younger associate's face contorts in a mix of horror and rage, demanding, "Why are my coworkers here? Is this a trap?" Female protagonist dismisses his accusations with a casual as if, then adds with feigned innocence, "I really know nothing." The female protagonist, whip still in hand, playfully suggests, "Shall we continue?" But the younger associate vehemently protests, "This is no time for that. Quick, unrope me." Now untied, the younger associate furiously pulls at his open shirt, his face contorted in anger and embarrassment. Younger associate bolts towards the door, desperate to escape, while the female protagonist watches his retreat. The room is bathed in deep purple, reflecting the chaotic emotions, as a voice dryly comments, "What a sight." The female protagonist turns her gaze towards the charismatic executive who has now appeared. Charismatic executive smirks, remarking, "Saka sure is popular," as he explains how he targeted the three co-workers and placed notes on their desks. The female protagonist's eyes fall upon the other woman, who remains silent, a thoughtful expression on her face. The female protagonist directly addresses the woman, stating, "You're that man's wife, right?" She then adds, "I know it must still hurt regardless of how much you want to get revenge." The wife of the younger associate remains silent, her expression a mix of sorrow and deep contemplation. The scene shifts abruptly as the female protagonist delivers a sharp kick to the younger associate, who is now on all fours, his face betraying a mix of pain and perverse pleasure. The younger associate's face is a picture of pure ecstasy, drool dripping from his mouth as he revels in the punishment. Younger associate lets out an ecstatic "Ah," completely lost in the moment as his wife watches him with an unreadable expression. Sitting calmly on a couch, the charismatic executive and the younger associate's wife observe the scene. The wife asks, "You okay? Let's leave if you feel uncomfortable. Don't get a seizure." Despite the concern from his wife, the younger associate reflects internally, expressing that while he appreciates her concern, he surprisingly doesn't feel anything. The younger associate looks up, a bewildered expression on his face, uttering a confused, "Huh." Meanwhile, the female protagonist manages a strained smile, her inner thoughts revealing a profound detachment as she realizes she no longer cares who he was with. She exchanges a silent, knowing look with the younger associate's wife, a moment heavy with unspoken understanding. The younger associate's wife offers words of encouragement to the female protagonist, advising her not to push herself too hard and wishing her success in her revenge. The female protagonist acknowledges the support, a small, appreciative smile gracing her lips. Later, the female protagonist stands over a bed, addressing the younger associate hidden beneath the covers, asking if he is still unwell and reminding him of the award ceremony scheduled for today. From beneath the covers, the younger associate's eye is visible, wide with unspoken anxiety. He remains hidden, trembling slightly, the weight of his personal turmoil evident even under the sheets. Suddenly, the younger associate pulls back the covers, his face a mask of terror as he thinks that everything is over. His panic intensifies, the thought echoing in his mind that he never imagined he would be caught in such a state. Battling his internal conflict, the younger associate admits he doesn't want to go to work but feels compelled by a sense of duty, unable to disappoint his colleague. His thoughts reveal the reason for his obligation. Thanks to her recommendation to the director, he was nominated for the award. Dressed in a sharp suit, the younger associate stands before an elevator, briefcase in hand, preparing to face the day. With a decisive click, the younger associate opens the elevator doors, stepping into the corporate environment. He enters an office filled with colleagues, including the charismatic executive, his face betraying a flicker of apprehension as he takes in the scene. The younger associate settles at his desk and with a soft rattle pulls open a drawer, a routine action masking his inner turmoil. His eyes widen in shock as he discovers a whip lying unexpectedly within his desk drawer. A wave of disbelief washes over him as he mentally questions why there is a whip in his drawer. His face contorts in rage, his fist clenched as he realizes he has been betrayed, while his female colleagues watch from a distance, seemingly gossiping. With a frustrated slam of his hand on the desk, the younger associate abruptly gets up and rushes away, unable to contain his anger. A female colleague calls out to him. The younger associate turns, surprised, and acknowledges her with a nervous response. He bows deeply to the colleague, expressing his gratitude for her recommendation to the director while she casually mentions looking forward to dinner tonight. The younger associate responds with a forced, uneasy smile, uttering a hesitant, "Of course." As he speaks, the colleague's hand subtly reaches out and makes contact with his backside, a suggestive gesture. Colleague provocatively tells him she's ordered a special medicinal meal for him as the younger associate reacts with a shocked exclamation. His eye widens in horror as the realization dawns on him that everyone in the company already knows his secret. A system announcement calls him to the podium and the younger associate mechanically responds, "Yes." As he walks, the younger associate tries to rationalize his situation, thinking that the rumors will eventually fade and believing that nothing more will happen to him since it's just a personal hobby. He resolves to endure the humiliation until everyone forgets the rumors surrounding him. His expression suddenly shifts to one of profound surprise, his eyes wide with a new shock. With a startled cry, the younger associate stumbles and falls to his knees, a picture frame clattering to the ground beside him. The fallen picture reveals a scandalous image of a man in bondage, completely exposed to the entire audience. The younger associate lets out a guttural scream of pure horror and despair, his face contorted in agony. His colleagues gasp in shock and dismay as the entire room witnesses his ultimate humiliation. The humiliation crushes him entirely as Ryosuke clutches his head in utter despair, letting out a guttural cry of "No." Meanwhile, the true mastermind, the charismatic executive, smiles slyly, proclaiming his plan a great success. Back in the present, Ryosuke's face contorts with burning rage. He curses the unknown perpetrator, vowing vengeance. The female protagonist, oblivious, continues her chores while Ryosuke's mind races with a desperate however as he eyes her. The female protagonist approaches him, asking if he's still unwell. Ryosuke, lost in thought, clings to the idea that despite losing everything, he still has her. A sinister smile spreads across Ryosuke's face as he believes he can secure a comfortable life by exploiting the female protagonist. He then casually drops a bombshell, announcing he quit his job, leaving the female protagonist utterly shocked. The female protagonist recalls his past desire for her help at the restaurant while Ryosuke apologizes for his sudden revelation, feigning sincerity. The female protagonist, with a warm smile, expresses her joy at his decision, offering her thanks. Ryosuke pulls her close, a smug expression on his face, internally gloating about how easily she fell for his deception. Unbeknownst to him, the female protagonist's true thoughts are far colder. She labels him stupid and asserts that only his looks and pride are worth anything. Her internal monologue continues, promising him a future filled with lots of despair. In a different scene, the charismatic executive acknowledges the female protagonist's strategy, stating that everything went well thanks to her. He then asks her to extend his gratitude to Yukiko-san, to which the female protagonist readily agrees. The female protagonist, however, expresses her concern over the inherent risks of their actions, questioning his motivation for helping her. The charismatic executive explains that he couldn't succeed alone and admits there's much he still doesn't know, expressing his gratitude. He then tells her to reserve her gratitude, reminding her that she hasn't yet fully repaid them. With a shared understanding, both the charismatic executive and the female protagonist agree it's time to craft another plan. The charismatic executive watches the female protagonist diligently writing in her notebook, a thoughtful expression on his face. He reflects internally, acknowledging that while she likely doesn't remember, he actually owes her a debt from the past. The scene shifts to a flashback showing a younger charismatic executive smiling and pointing, seemingly innocent. His mother's words echo, revealing how his father's reputation led other parents to avoid them and tell their children to stay away, leaving him always alone. The younger charismatic executive stands isolated, a somber expression on his face, feeling the weight of his loneliness. He narrates his decision to start training his body, a desperate attempt to stop others from picking on him. The younger charismatic executive is seen being physically harassed by a group of bullies, pulling at his shirt. The narration continues, detailing how he accidentally fractured someone's bones while retaliating against the bullies. The stark sign of the principal's office looms, signaling the severe consequences of his actions. One of the bullies, with a cruel smirk, forces the younger charismatic executive to bow your head in a humiliating display. The narrative reveals the unfortunate truth: the injured boy was the principal's son, making the younger charismatic executive feel even more out of place at school. A close-up shows the principal's son, a bandage on his cheek, a triumphant and mocking grin plastered across his face. The younger charismatic executive's face is a mask of suppressed anger and resentment as he is forced to submit. He recounts his decision to abandon school and continue his studies at the local library instead. His homeroom teacher, the stern director, confronts him about his low attendance, warning him he won't graduate if he keeps ditching school. The younger charismatic executive responds, promising to be more diligent from that point onward. The stern director, with a condescending smirk, reminds him of his family's lack of money, urging him to work harder as he adjusts his watch. Close-up on the stern director's expensive watch highlights his dismissive attitude and the class disparity. The younger charismatic executive's eye glints with quiet resolve, silently processing the insult and fueling his determination. The younger charismatic executive's eye glints with quiet resolve, silently processing the insult and fueling his determination. Meanwhile, the ordinary school day unfolds, a seemingly calm facade over simmering tensions. Suddenly, a commotion erupts as two students react with wide-eyed shock and dismay, signaling an unexpected turn of events. Amidst the growing unrest, Morinaga, a male student, slowly rises from his desk, a look of weary resignation on his face as he prepares for the inevitable confrontation. He slumps back down, his thoughts echoing the sentiment that school is an unbearable burden, a place of constant pain and frustration. The accuser, a male student, cries out in panic, frantically searching for his missing wristwatch and demanding if anyone knows its whereabouts. Classroom erupts in whispers as students speculate about the missing, expensive timepiece, with one suggesting it might have been stolen. A chilling thought pervades the room: isn't Morinaga the culprit? Morinaga himself stirs, a faint escaping his lips as if sensing the unspoken accusation. The atmosphere in the classroom grows heavy with judgment as the students' gazes converge on Morinaga, the unspoken accusations hanging thick in the air. Morinaga realizes the situation is spiraling out of control as the accuser's voice cuts through the tension, directly calling out his name. The accuser confronts Morinaga, demanding he show his bag, a clear challenge to his innocence. Morinaga's face twists in a mix of anger and disbelief, uttering a sharp "what" in response to the audacious demand. The accuser presses further, his voice dripping with condescension, asking if Morinaga stole it because he is the only one poor in this class. The accuser boldly reaches for Morinaga's bag, attempting to search it without permission, while Morinaga watches, stunned. A struggle ensues as hands grapple over the bag, a silent battle of wills over the invasion of privacy. The accuser recoils in shock, a surprised exclamation escaping him as Morinaga resists his attempt to search the bag. Morinaga shoves the accuser away with force, the impact sending him stumbling back, escalating the confrontation into a physical altercation. Female protagonist, witnessing the sudden violence, gasps in horror, her hands flying to her mouth in a cry of "Kaya." The accuser tumbles to the floor, clutching his head in pain, a small injury visible on his forehead as he groans, "Ah, it hurts." His face contorted in anger and hurt, the accuser points a trembling finger at Morinaga, threatening to report him to their teacher. Morinaga tries to explain, "I didn't mean to," but his words are drowned out by a frantic shout for an ambulance, plunging the situation into further chaos. After the incident, Morinaga Taisei, aged 50, stands solemnly in the rain, having been called to the school to address his son's actions. The female protagonist looks down, her cheeks flushed, a silent "you," betraying her embarrassment and discomfort with the entire affair. Alone in the hallway, the female protagonist adjusts her tie, her expression still clouded with the lingering shame and awkwardness of the recent events. Morinaga walks away from the scene, his back to the viewer, the weight of the accusations and the confrontation heavy on his shoulders. Morinaga and his father face the teacher and the accuser as the teacher formally addresses Morinaga Taisei, asking, "Are you Morinaga-san?" Whispers ripple through the student body as they point and gossip about Morinaga's father, remarking, "So, that's his dad," and cruelly questioning if he was homeless. Teacher apologetically explains to Morinaga Taisei that an item went missing and that another student, the accuser, attempted to search his son's bag. He continues, explaining that Taiga-kun Morinaga took offense to this attempted search which resulted in the accuser's injury. Morinaga Taisei turns to his son, his expression stern, and commands, "Taiga, return it now." Morinaga Taisei's firm stance is emphasized as he reiterates his demand, telling his son to give it back to the teacher now, leaving no room for argument. Morinaga's face contorts in a defiant and hurt expression as he vehemently denies the accusation, shouting, "I didn't steal it." His eyes burn with a cold, murderous intent, reflecting his deep-seated anger and refusal to be unjustly accused. A stinging red mark appears on Morinaga's cheek, his hand flying up to cover the impact, his expression a mixture of shock and profound hurt. Just as the tension reaches its peak, a clear voice cuts through the silence as the female protagonist steps forward, declaring, "Excuse me." With unwavering conviction, the female protagonist confronts the crowd, asserting, "I don't think Morinaga-san stole anything." The female protagonist, with a look of utter disbelief, vehemently declares to the teacher, insisting, "You must be mistaken, sensei." Younger associate, the student accused, stares wide-eyed in shock, his face contorted with fear as the accusation hangs heavy in the air. Other students in the classroom exchange worried glances, their expressions reflecting the tense and uncomfortable atmosphere. A moment of charged silence hangs over the classroom, filled with unspoken tension. With unwavering conviction, the female protagonist reiterates her stance, asserting, "I don't think Morinaga-san stole anything." Charismatic executive observes the scene with a serious, contemplative gaze, a slight mark visible on his cheek. A collective murmur of confusion ripples through the surrounding students as they struggle to process the female protagonist's bold defense. The stern director, with a dismissive smirk, addresses the female protagonist, identifying her as Yoshida, and challenges her, demanding to know, "Why do you think so?" He then begins to recount, explaining, "When I was doing self-study earlier, I accidentally left my watch behind." The scene shifts to a flashback showing a sparsely populated library where the female protagonist and the charismatic executive are seen studying, a quiet evening setting in. Charismatic executive, pen in hand, remarks that it's nearly time for the library to close. The female protagonist, standing by a table, bows in apology, expressing, "Ah, right, I'm sorry for staying too long." The charismatic executive leans on a desk, his gaze directed downwards, lost in thought as the library prepares to close. A lone watch rests on a wooden table, its presence prompting a surprised internal thought, "Huh." Female protagonist's eyes widen in realization as she spots the younger associate walking away, prompting her to call out, "Wait." Approaching the younger associate, the female protagonist greets him, "Oh, Morinaga-san, hello," as she extends her hand, stating, "You left this." The younger associate, relieved, explains the watch's significance, stating, "I'd be in trouble if I lost this. This was a gift from my parents for my high school entrance ceremony." The female protagonist smiles warmly, adding, "Then that's good." The younger associate, relieved, expresses his gratitude, stating, "I'm really thankful for your help," as the female protagonist bows in response. Back in the present, the stern director acknowledges the female protagonist's story, conceding, "I see. I understand what you're trying to say." With a condescending smirk, the stern director dismisses her point, asserting, "But even if they both are watches, yours was owned by a high school student. It'll definitely be different from a watch owned by a teacher." He then boasts, "I don't intend to brag, but mine was worth nearly 300,000 yen. Now you understand my point, right?" The female protagonist looks utterly bewildered, her expression a mix of shock and confusion as she mutters, "Huh." As the female protagonist attempts to interject, calling out, "Wait, sensei," a fellow female student, Itu, steps forward, grabbing the teacher's attention with a firm, "Oh, Itu." Itu confidently points to the female protagonist's wrist, revealing Emi's watch is Lorax brand. It costs around 500,000 yen or so. The stern director's face contorts in disbelief, muttering, "Huh." A ripple of whispers spreads through the students as they question, "So sensei's watch is cheaper?" And someone mutters, "Embarrassing." The stern director turns away, visibly flustered. The crowd of students stirs, their attention now fully on the unfolding drama as an unseen voice exclaims, "Now." Female protagonist expresses her gratitude, "Thanks, Asuka." Asuka, in turn, explains her intervention, admitting, "I still can't trust Morinaga-kun, but you looked so troubled, so I thought I should step in." The charismatic executive observes the female protagonist, a soft smile gracing his lips as he thinks, "You're always so kind to everyone, Emi." The female protagonist modestly dismisses the thought, saying, "I don't think so, though," while the charismatic executive's internal monologue continues, "That is what's so charming about you, Emi." The charismatic executive remains pensive, a faint blush on his cheek reflecting on the encounter. Few days later, the charismatic executive spots the female protagonist at the library once more. He recalls, "I spotted Yoshida at the library again, so I tried to call out to her to say thank you." The charismatic executive, with a small bandage on his cheek, looks up in surprise as he calls out, "Yoshida." The female protagonist beams brightly, her eyes sparkling with warmth and cheerfulness. The female protagonist asks, "Have you read this book?" Female protagonist animatedly shares her thoughts on a book, stating, "The story is very interesting. I thought I should return it today." The charismatic executive listens, a gentle smile on his face. Hands delicately exchange a book bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. The charismatic executive's narration reflects on their growing bond. "You always treated me like usual. Since then, we often met at the library, but we only grew closer." The charismatic executive's internal monologue continues, acknowledging that it was the first time in his life someone had shown such profound faith in him, a sentiment that deepened their connection. Female protagonist looks troubled, her eyes wide with a hint of concern as she admits, "This is difficult." A chibi-style interlude shows the charismatic executive questioning, "Huh?" The female protagonist then praises his ability to always devise original and effective ideas for repayment, finding it truly amazing. The charismatic executive, with a focused gaze, reveals his decision. He intends to repay the female protagonist for all she has done for him. A flashback begins, with the scheming confidante's face contorted in fury, holding a champagne glass as she demands to know why the younger associate is quitting his job. The younger associate kneels before the scheming confidant, explaining that he doesn't know who was behind it, but he's certain someone was trying to set him up. The scheming confidante's eye narrows, a cold intensity in her gaze as she presses him. "What happened?" The younger associate looks down, a sigh escaping him as he begins, "Actually." His gaze remains distant as he concludes his thought, revealing, "That's how it ended." The younger associate offers a sincere apology to the scheming confidant, admitting he had no intention of betraying her but was tempted by the thought of not having to bother her constantly. The scheming confidant smirks, declaring she knew something was off, while the younger associate lets out a small, confused huh. Sitting casually on the couch, the scheming confidant probes the younger associate, asking who else knew about his personal preferences, asserting that she has never told anyone else. The younger associate's face contorts in disbelief, shouting, "Impossible. She has no idea about any of this." Subtle shift in the scheming confidante's expression as she refutes him, revealing, "No, she was the one who gave me the ticket to that salon." A flashback shows the female protagonist offering a ticket with a smile, asking, "How about you use this?" The scheming confidant continues, adding that the female protagonist also arranged her meeting with Nara Akira. The female protagonist's past words echo, explaining she couldn't reveal it before due to a privacy policy, but Nara-san was a regular at her parents' restaurant. The younger associate utters the female protagonist's name in shock, while the scheming confidant vehemently denies the implications, stating, "That can't be true." The scheming confidant points a finger, asserting that the younger associate underestimates the female protagonist too much, claiming she can be sharp at times. The younger associate questions this, "Really?" Scene shifts to a school clock as the scheming confidant recalls a past event, asking, "Remember when sensei's watch got stolen in high school?" Amidst a crowd of students, the female protagonist stands out as the scheming confidant narrates that while everyone believed Morinaga Taiga was the thief, the female protagonist was the only one who insisted otherwise. Back in the present, the younger associate's eyes widen in recognition as he exclaims, "Ah, right, I remember now." The younger associate, still processing the memory, points out that no one ever found the watch in the end, questioning if that meant Morinaga was the culprit all along. Scheming confidant takes a sip from her glass, her expression unreadable. A close-up on the scheming confidant's lips as she finishes her drink, a subtle hint of a smirk forming. A chilling, knowing smile spreads across the scheming confidant's face as she declares, the female protagonist was correct. The younger associate's eyes are wide with shock, his mouth agape as he gasps, "What?" Scheming confidant reveals her true colors, admitting she thought she'd get away with selling the watch, and because she was friends with the female protagonist, no one ever suspected her. She then mocks the younger associate, calling him too soft. A bottle of wine sits on a table as the scheming confidant's voice echoes, reminding the younger associate not to underestimate the female protagonist. The scheming confidant turns away, her posture exuding absolute resolve, declaring, "I get what I want." As she walks away, the scheming confidant's ominous declaration continues, "That's my present, and I intend to keep it that way in the future." The scheming confidant's face is a mask of cold determination as she vows to crush any obstacle standing in her way, while the female protagonist looks on with a hint of distress. A hand gently places a cup on a tray, signaling a transition or a moment of quiet reflection before the next confrontation. The female protagonist sits across from the scheming confidant, asking, "So, what's wrong?" The scheming confidant's internal thought reveals her intention to get straight to the point. A dark, swirling backdrop emphasizes the gravity of the scheming confidant's thoughts as she prepares to deliver a crucial question. Female protagonist's face registers profound shock as the scheming confidant's voice cuts through the tension, directly accusing her, "Was it you?" The female protagonist. The recap concludes with promotional material for the webtoon, inviting viewers to continue the story online. But the story doesn't end there. The female protagonist stares in utter disbelief, her eyes wide with shock, muttering, "What the hell?" She recounts how at first she dismissed the unsettling incidents as mere child's pranks, but as they persisted, a creeping fear began to settle in. Her companion expresses horror, questioning if this wasn't outright harassment and asking when it began. The female protagonist confirms it started a few weeks prior, prompting her companion to ask if the police had been involved. Her companion, her expression sharp, presses the female protagonist for a reason why she hadn't contacted the authorities. The female protagonist reveals the disturbing truth: the letters contained highly confidential information known only to her and a very select few close associates. Her companion quickly deduces that the perpetrator must be someone familiar to the female protagonist, who then confirms her suspicions, explaining why she's hesitant to involve the police. Internally, her companion seethes with rage, cursing the unknown culprit for their infuriating actions. The female protagonist states her preference to handle the matter herself, while her companion, despite her doubts about a close associate being involved, declares her intention to investigate everyone she knows. The female protagonist's thoughts drift, wondering if a certain Emmy also harbored doubts. She recalls the younger associate's silence on the matter, suspecting Emmy might have kept secrets from him. The female protagonist apologizes for her troubles, to which her companion responds with empathy, asking if she had confided in the younger associate about the situation. The female protagonist reveals she hasn't, citing the younger associate's recent strange behavior. Her companion probes for details, asking for clarification on his actions. She elaborates on the younger associate's alarming change, skipping work for days, refusing to leave his bed, and then, without warning, declaring his intention to quit his job. A tender memory flashes, showing the charismatic executive smiling warmly, gently touching the female protagonist's hair, a stark contrast to her current distress. Her companion reacts with shock at the news. The female protagonist speculates that the younger associate might also be a target of harassment, hiding it to spare her worry. Her companion dismisses the female protagonist's theory, convinced that if the younger associate were truly harassed, he would have reported it to her directly. Then, with a grave expression, her companion reveals her own secret, presenting the female protagonist with a similar unsettling letter. The female protagonist's eye widens in horror as she examines the cryptic, threatening papers her companion received, a chilling realization dawning upon her. Her companion's mind races, questioning if the letters are directed at her, and then a more sinister thought takes hold: are they exposing Emmy's affair with the younger associate? Amidst the growing panic, her companion forces herself to remain calm, an internal struggle to relax and maintain composure. The female protagonist, overwhelmed, exclaims that the situation is spiraling out of control, a sentiment her companion somberly echoes. The female protagonist apologizes for monopolizing the conversation, then, with a sympathetic look, asks her companion if she too has been experiencing troubles. Her companion, realizing Emmy might not be the culprit after all, decides it's best to conceal the truth for now, resolving to fabricate a story. Her companion reveals a shocking discovery: someone has leaked her apartment address online, a detail only a few trusted individuals possess. The female protagonist reacts with stunned disbelief. The female protagonist expresses her unease, to which her companion vehemently denies involvement, swearing it wasn't her. The female protagonist quickly apologizes for her momentary doubt. Her companion's eye narrows with suspicion, her thoughts turning to the unknown culprit. She decides to discreetly monitor Emmy, convinced she holds a key to the mystery. The female protagonist urges her companion to focus on her own, more pressing issue. Her companion offers unwavering support, promising to accompany her to the police and listen to everything. Her companion, feigning concern, thinks about the female protagonist's fragile heart, fearing a seizure. She acknowledges her own past actions but maintains a facade of care. A sinister glint flashes in her companion's eye. She vows not to fail again, determined to sabotage the female protagonist's plans for a child with the charismatic executive, knowing another incident would be difficult to orchestrate. With a chilling smile, she declares the charismatic executive her lover, urging him to move on to a new chapter, to avoid marriage. Unaware of the dark machinations, the female protagonist smiles, expressing her understanding and thanking her companion for her apparent care. The younger associate, holding a bottle of wine, reacts with surprise, questioning if such an incident truly occurred. Her companion berates the younger associate, questioning his dependability as a husband, while he, in turn, reveals that the female protagonist showed him threatening letters. She then coldly reminds him that their relationship's longevity is due to her inputs, threatening his inheritance if he fails to follow her instructions. The younger associate apologizes profusely, claiming ignorance, and then speculates if the same mysterious individual was responsible for him losing his job. Her companion confirms his suspicion with a knowing, almost smug expression, implying her involvement. Her thoughts turn to the overarching scheme: someone is actively trying to shut down Yoshida Restaurant, and the harassments experienced by both the younger associate and Emmy must be connected. Her companion dismisses the letters as mere nonsense designed to cause stress, but then the younger associate acknowledges the potential trouble if Emmy were to doubt their fidelity. With grim determination, her companion declares they cannot allow Yoshida Restaurant to collapse, nor can Emmy discover their affair, as it would shatter their lives. The younger associate agrees, emphasizing the urgent need to apprehend the culprit. Her companion instructs the younger associate, reminding him of his shift at the restaurant and urging him to report any suspicious individuals immediately. He readily agrees. Meanwhile, in a different setting, the female protagonist sits across from the charismatic executive at a quiet cafe, a moment of calm before the storm. The female protagonist thanks the charismatic executive for his assistance. He, in turn, expresses satisfaction with their arrangement, confident that their manipulative rival has been completely fooled. The charismatic executive wears a smug, triumphant smile, knowing their plan is unfolding perfectly. The charismatic executive, still radiating triumph, boasts about his artistic flair, revealing he thoroughly enjoyed crafting the letters for their elaborate scheme, a skill he prides himself on. A delicate hand meticulously arranges the cut-out letters, forming a message. The female protagonist intends to present this fabricated evidence to Asuka, preemptively quashing any doubts she might harbor. The female protagonist observes the charismatic executive, confirming that the goal is to appear as a victim herself. The charismatic executive's internal monologue reveals his desire for Asuka to believe they are both being harassed and attempt to sabotage the Yoshida restaurant. With a knowing glance, the charismatic executive acknowledges the strategy, understanding the necessity of diverting attention to maintain their deceit. The female protagonist affirms their plan, emphasizing the critical need for Asuka's continued trust, mirroring the unwavering faith she once placed in Asuka. In a circular frame, the female protagonist and the charismatic executive work side by side, cutting paper, their synchronized actions a testament to their shared, deceptive goal. Later, in a quiet cafe, the charismatic executive inquires about the next phase of their plan, specifically mentioning Saka. Over a decadent dessert, the female protagonist reveals that he will begin working at her restaurant next week. The charismatic executive, however, voices skepticism, questioning if the individual can truly handle the demanding tasks of a restaurant. A subtle, cunning smile plays on the female protagonist's lips as she internally muses on Ryosuke's pampered past, anticipating his frustration at starting as a mere apprentice. The stern director, a man of experience, reflects on his past, recalling how he took over the restaurant after his parents' untimely passing. Ryosuke, with a forced smile, harbors an internal worry about how long he can truly endure the challenges ahead. Charismatic executive's smug smile widens as he utters a simple, knowing, "I see," a clear indication that he understands the unfolding machinations. A hand grips a glass, the scene shrouded in darkness as the question hangs in the air: what is their next step in this intricate plan of revenge? The female protagonist, her expression hardening with resolve, declares Ryosuke as their next target. She proposes crafting a plan to make them both suffer simultaneously, a chilling testament to her vengeful intent. The younger associate, beaming with an almost theatrical charm, introduces himself as Ryosuke, Emi's husband, and expresses his hope for a good working relationship, unaware of the true nature of his new role. An establishing shot reveals the traditional architecture of the restaurant, a serene facade belying the intricate drama unfolding within its walls. In the office, the female protagonist addresses the stern director, respectfully asking if he would be willing to guide Ryosuke in his new role. The stern director, identified as Yoshida Makoto, Emi's uncle, readily agrees, stating that he intended to teach Ryosuke the ropes from the very beginning. The female protagonist expresses her profound gratitude and relief, confirming that both Ryosuke and she will now be working full-time at the restaurant. The stern director, with a caring tone, reminds the female protagonist not to overexert herself, acknowledging her frail body and the recent calm after her parents' passing. The stern director, touching his eye thoughtfully, reflects on his own journey, admitting that while he had always focused on cooking, his brother's sudden death forced a change in his priorities. His eye narrows with concern as he reveals he had to prioritize the female protagonist's health. He expresses his genuine happiness upon learning of Ryosuke's interest in their family business. The female protagonist acknowledges his concern, articulating her understanding that he worries about Ryosuke's inexperience in managing such a business. The stern director confirms her deduction, asking her to bear with Ryosuke as he might take some time to adapt to the new responsibilities. A few days later, the stern director assigns the younger associate his next task, cleaning the toilet, a menial job far removed from his expectations. The younger associate reacts with utter shock, protesting that he came as a candidate for the next owner, not a cleaner. The stern director, with a firm side glance, simply commands him to look. His eye sharpens with intensity as the stern director questions the logic of someone ignorant of the field sitting at the top, asserting that he will have the younger associate learn from basic part-timer tasks. The younger associate outwardly complies, stating he understands, but internally, a furious expletive escapes him, revealing his true, seething resentment towards the bold fart. A frustrated TCH escapes the younger associate's lips, his anger palpable as the stern director walks away, leaving him fuming. The stern director harbors internal doubts, unable to voice his concerns to the female protagonist, questioning if Ryosuke can truly handle the work, sensing something unsettling beneath his pleasant exterior. The younger associate, on his knees scrubbing a toilet, rages internally about being subjected to such lowly work, reminding himself of his past accolades and awards. His face contorted in fury, the younger associate vows that the very first act he will take upon becoming owner is to fire that imbecile. Amidst the shadows, a mysterious book lies on a surface, its presence hinting at secrets yet to be uncovered. The younger associate, startled, questions the nature of the book he holds. The stern director reveals it to be a compilation of confidential customer information. Close-up reveals the book's contents, a customer profile detailing name, birthdate, and blood type. The stern director sternly instructs the younger associate to memorize every piece of information within it. The younger associate, aghast, questions the necessity of memorizing all the information. The stern director calmly reveals that the female protagonist herself compiled the book. Holding the book, the younger associate's expression shifts to surprise and contemplation upon learning that the female protagonist was the one who created it. Staring down at the profile of Nara Akira, born in 1960, the weight of the mission begins to settle in. This man is the key, and every detail about him must be etched into memory. Younger associate looks up, his eyes wide with a mix of realization and pressure as he acknowledges the magnitude of the task ahead. He wonders how long it will take to truly master every detail. He reasons that as long as he maintains a friendly facade, he can navigate the complexities of these high-profile targets. His thoughts turn cynical as he looks at another target. To him, this is an inefficient waste of time, and he views these powerful men as mere obstacles to be managed. With a sharp snap, he slams the book shut. The time for study is over. The time for action is approaching. Weeks pass in a blur of preparation. Under the cool glow of the moonlight, the restaurant stands ready for the events that will determine their future. In the quiet of the kitchen, the younger associate asks the female protagonist how much longer his grueling training will last. She calmly notes it only ends when her uncle is satisfied. He voices his doubts, fearing that the stern director is only a temporary fixture and might be unwilling to eventually hand over the reins of the establishment. The female protagonist continues her work, dismissing his concerns. She trusts her uncle implicitly and doesn't believe he would harbor such petty motives. Sensing an opportunity, the younger associate points out the upcoming dinner with Nara Akira and a member of parliament. He begs to be put in charge to prove his worth. He is convinced that handling such a high-stakes event perfectly will be his golden ticket to ending his training and gaining full recognition. He pleads with her, hands clasped in desperation. The female protagonist hesitates, reminding him that she has already delegated management to her uncle. Seeing his earnestness, she softens. With a gentle smile, she promises to try and convince her uncle to give him this one chance. The stern director is immediately skeptical. He finds the idea of letting a trainee handle guests of Nara and Sayatome's caliber to be a massive risk. The female protagonist stands her ground, offering to personally assist him to ensure nothing goes wrong. The director pauses, weighing her proposal. Reluctantly, he agrees, trusting her oversight. He decides he will inform the young associate of the decision later that day. Unaware of the debate, the younger associate waits anxiously, checking his phone as the minutes tick by. The stern director approaches him with the news. He's decided to include him in the team for the dinner party between Nara and Sayatome. Overjoyed, he thanks the director profusely, promising to do his absolute best. Internally, he celebrates his successful manipulation. The director checks one last time, asking if he has truly memorized all the vital information from the dossiers. He confidently claims he has. With a stern warning to remain polite at all costs, the director leaves him to his final preparations. As soon as he is alone, his friendly mask slips. A cold, calculating expression takes over as he looks back at the research. He scoffs at the amount of work, deciding to only memorize the details for the two primary guests. To him, the rest is just noise. He finds a note on Sayatome Ikuro. The man owns a dog named Ranchan. He smirks, thinking he's found the perfect icebreaker. He repeats the name to himself, focusing solely on this minor detail as if it were the secret to his success. The stern director gives a final briefing, warning that the client is in a complicated situation and any mistake will be disastrous. The younger associate brushes off the warning. He's convinced his memory is perfect and that there were no complications mentioned in the files he read. The female protagonist instructs him to stay back and observe for his first time. He nods, but his mind is already racing with a different plan. He refuses to be a mere spectator. He needs to leave a lasting impression to prove he's already better than the training suggests. With a professional smile, the female protagonist welcomes Sayatome-sama, signaling the start of the high-stakes evening. Car door opens, and a polished shoe hits the pavement. The presence of the guest is felt immediately by everyone present. Sayatome Ikuro steps out, his expression unreadable and stern. He is a man who demands perfection and tolerates nothing less. The younger associate sees his chance. He knows pet owners love talking about their animals and decides this is his moment to attack. He whispers to the female protagonist to leave the guest to him. She is caught off guard, her eyes widening in sudden alarm. He tries to stop him, but it's too late. He's already stepping forward, breaking protocol in his rush to be noticed. With a beaming, over-the-top smile, he greets Sayatome Ikuro-sama and immediately asks, "How is Ranchan?" The air turns frigid. Sayatome's eye twitches as a look of pure, cold fury washes over his face. The associate has just made a fatal mistake. Female protagonist's eyes widen in absolute horror, her hand instinctively flying to her mouth. The tension in the air is palpable. Beside her, the younger associate's face pales, mirroring her shock as he too grasps the gravity of the situation. The female protagonist bows deeply, her voice laced with desperation as she pleads for forgiveness, acknowledging the grievous error made on behalf of the restaurant. Younger associate, still reeling, can only utter a confused "huh" as the female protagonist internally questions the name Gyru, wondering why it's different from what she expected. The charismatic executive, his expression stern, directs a cutting question at the female protagonist, asking if she's a new employee, implying her ignorance is the cause. The charismatic executive's face contorts with rage as he declares Ikaru is his older brother, professing an intense hatred for him and animals. Below, the younger associate can only gasp, "Wah." With a final, dismissive glare, the charismatic executive declares the entire situation how unpleasant, his disdain evident. A sly smile plays on the female protagonist's lips as she reveals the true reason for the blunder, directly accusing Ryosuke of failing to properly check the documents. The female protagonist's internal monologue reveals her meticulous plan. She had removed Gyru's page from the book, ensuring Ryosuke would only study Ikaru's profile and thus make the critical error. The younger associate's eyes bulge in dawning horror as he gasps, "Saotome Ikaru and Saotome Gyru," the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. His internal thoughts race, confirming his worst fears. He had been studying Ikaru's page, completely overlooking Gyru's, a fatal oversight orchestrated by the female protagonist. The charismatic executive delivers a harsh reprimand, forbidding the younger associate from appearing before customers after such a blatant and costly mistake. The chef sighs in exasperation, lamenting that this is precisely why he'd constantly reminded the younger associate to read the guest book with utmost care. Younger associate's jaw clenches, his eyes burning with a mixture of frustration and self-reproach, the weight of his error crushing him. The scene shifts to the inviting glow of K-Bar, a place where one might seek solace or distraction from a terrible day. Inside the bar, the younger associate slumps in his seat, his thoughts echoing the sentiment that today truly is the worst day ever. Friendly bartender offers a warm welcome to Ryosuke, remarking that he's arrived at a most opportune moment. "What?" the younger associate retorts, his internal thoughts seething with irritation, declaring he's in no mood to pretend to be friendly. The bartender gestures towards a man seated at the counter, introducing him as Saka Ryosuke-san. Sajiya Teppei smiles warmly, acknowledging the younger associate by name. "I see, so you're Saka Ryosuke-san." Sajiya Teppei maintains a pleasant, welcoming smile. A text message flashes across a phone screen, announcing the arrival of Sajiya Teppei. The bartender points to the man at the counter, introducing him as Sajiya-kun. Sajiya Teppei glances at his phone, a smirk playing on his lips as he sees a message confirming someone's arrival, then utters an excited "ooh." Sajiya Teppei turns to the younger associate, a wide smile on his face as he greets him. "So you're Saka Ryosuke-san." Sajiya Teppei extends his hand, offering his business card to the younger associate. The younger associate reads the name on the card. Sajiya Teppei-san is it, confirming the identity of the man before him. Younger associate offers a sheepish apology, admitting he didn't bring a business card, and then privately muses that he never had one to begin with. Sajiya Teppei reveals his knowledge, stating he heard the younger associate is destined to become the next owner of the renowned Yoshida restaurant. The younger associate stammers, caught off guard by Sajiya Teppei's unexpected knowledge. Bartender offers an apologetic smile, confessing he shared information about the younger associate without permission. The bartender elaborates, explaining that Sajiya-kun is an award-winning advertiser, renowned both domestically and internationally, a man frequently featured in magazines. The bartender continues, explaining Sajiya-kun's recent visits and his search for advertisers for Japanese restaurants, which prompted the bartender to mention the younger associate, leading to Sajiya-kun's excitement. Advertisement, huh? The younger associate muses, a spark of an idea igniting in his mind. Perhaps this could be the key to rebranding their old-fashioned restaurant. He considers the current owner, Makoto-san, realizing that Makoto-san's focus is solely on cooking, making him unlikely to consider such a modern approach. A determined smile crosses the younger associate's face as he politely asks Sajiya Teppei about his advertising work, secretly thinking this could be his chance to outshine Makoto-san. Sajiya Teppei beams, readily agreeing to share details about his advertising campaigns. A shimmering transition marks the shift in conversation as new possibilities begin to unfold. Sajiya Teppei proudly presents his tablet, showcasing a vibrant array of his past advertising samples featuring beautiful Japanese aesthetics. The charismatic executive, impressed by the intricate details of the advertising samples, inquires about the cost, acknowledging the complexity of the proposed campaign. The younger associate, with a confident smile, assures him that while the investment is substantial, the projected increase in customer acquisition makes it a worthwhile bargain, promising a swift return on investment. With a satisfied grin, the charismatic executive presents a tablet displaying the official quotation, a staggering 5 million yen. The younger associate's eyes widen in shock, the immense sum of 5 million yen echoing in his mind, a price far beyond his initial expectations. Regaining his composure, the younger associate politely requests time to consider the proposal, promising to contact the charismatic executive later. The charismatic executive, ever the professional, assures him he will await the good news. Later, the younger associate returns home, announcing his arrival to the female protagonist, who greets him warmly from the living room couch. The female protagonist, engrossed in a magazine, suddenly recognizes the man the younger associate just met. To her surprise, it's Sujiya Teppei, a highly acclaimed professional. Excitedly, the female protagonist recounts Sujiya Teppei's recent prestigious award in America, making him a highly sought-after talent. The younger associate casually confirms they had drinks together. Curious, the younger associate asks about the magazine. The female protagonist reveals it's a monthly publication exclusively for Blackheart members. The female protagonist explains that the magazine features a segment called Professional Secret, filled with interviews from experts in various fields. This month, Sujiya Teppei is the featured professional. Clutching a black heart, the younger associate's mind races. He realizes Sujiya Teppei is an extraordinary individual featured in a magazine only accessible to celebrities. Reconsidering the situation, the younger associate internally concludes that the 5 million yen price offered by such an esteemed professional like the charismatic executive is, in fact, quite reasonable. A sinister smirk spreads across the younger associate's face as yen notes flutter around him. He sees an opportunity to not only secure a valuable advertisement but also to profit immensely, believing fate is on his side. The female protagonist observes the younger associate with a silent, unreadable expression, a subtle hint of suspicion in her gaze. The scene shifts to a traditional Japanese building, its architecture hinting at a long-standing establishment. Inside, the younger associate, dressed in traditional attire, dutifully sweeps the floor. An older chef instructs him to clean the toilet next, to which the younger associate submissively agrees. A quick shot focuses on the younger associate's hand slipping into his pocket, subtly clutching his phone, a hint of his clandestine activities. Younger associate, phone in hand, glances discreetly at the older chef and the female protagonist in the background, a sly calculation in his eyes. A cunning smirk plays on the younger associate's lips as he recalls Makoto-san mentioning a meeting, realizing this absence provides the perfect window for his scheme. His internal monologue confirms that Makoto-san will be away for a considerable period, solidifying the opportunity for his plan to unfold without interruption. Younger associate's hands move swiftly, opening a desk drawer to reveal a hidden seal, confirming his prior knowledge of its location. Clutching the seal, the younger associate's face contorts into a wide, triumphant, and utterly malicious grin, reveling in the success of his deceitful actions. The scene reveals a desk with a family photo, now missing the crucial seal, implying the younger associate has taken it, setting the stage for his betrayal. A hand holds a phone, displaying an image of the younger associate. The background is dark and fragmented, hinting at a hidden surveillance or observation. Female protagonist, with a chillingly sinister smile, holds her phone. Her internal thoughts declare the younger associate's foolishness to be boundless, revealing her own dark intentions. A grand, modern building stands tall against the sky, marking a transition to a new, professional setting. The charismatic executive expresses his gratitude for the signed contract, highlighting the successful completion of a significant business deal. The charismatic executive praises the opportunity to create an advertisement for the renowned Yoshida restaurant, to which the younger associate modestly dismisses the compliment, feigning humility. Charismatic executive extends an invitation for dinner to further discuss the contract, which the younger associate eagerly accepts, his chibi face beaming with pleasure. An opulent, intricately designed building stands illuminated, suggesting a lavish and exclusive venue for their dinner meeting. The younger associate, slightly tipsy and blushing, marvels at the grandeur of the long-established venue, clearly impressed by the luxurious setting. At the dinner table, two women openly flirt with the younger associate, praising his youth and handsomeness as the next owner of the restaurant. The charismatic executive intervenes, reminding them that the younger associate is married. Younger associate, with a smug blush, internally acknowledges the women's flattery, convinced of his enviable position in life. In a vivid internal fantasy, the younger associate, crowned and elevated, looks down upon the older chef and the female protagonist, whom he dismisses as mere overworking slaves, reinforcing his profound sense of superiority. Back at the dinner table, the charismatic executive shifts the conversation, revealing he has another matter to discuss, prompting the younger associate to inquire about it. Charismatic executive expresses concern that the model he had in mind for the upcoming shoot is unavailable due to the tight schedule, and asks if the younger associate has any suggestions. One of the women at the table explains that they need a model with over 50,000 followers, but unfortunately, no suitable candidate has been found. The younger associate ponders the requirement for a model, recalling that Asuka mentioned having around 50,000 followers, a potential solution emerging in his mind. Younger associate asks if anyone knows Ito Asuka. One of the women excitedly declares her a favorite, even following her account. The younger associate expresses surprise at her popularity. The charismatic executive recalls that Ito Asuka was his high school classmate and a close friend to both him and his wife. He wonders if he should approach her for the modeling job, believing she would be a perfect fit for the image he envisioned. With a determined expression, the charismatic executive makes the call, holding his phone to his ear as the conversation begins. On the other end, the charismatic executive addresses the female protagonist by her name, Asuka, and informs her he has something important to ask. The female protagonist, caught off guard, questions if this unexpected call is business-related, her eyes wide with surprise. Charismatic executive explains his plan to create an advertisement for Yoshida restaurant, revealing that the female protagonist's name came up as a potential model. She responds with a confused huh. The charismatic executive asks for her thoughts on the offer. The female protagonist, ever practical, immediately inquires about the salary, her gaze sharp and calculating. Call concludes, the red button on the phone pressed, signaling the end of their conversation. The charismatic executive informs the younger associate that the female protagonist has accepted the offer. The younger associate, impressed, praises his ability to convince her so swiftly. The charismatic executive internally expresses his excitement, feeling it's a dream come true to work with the female protagonist in person. Younger associate beams with self-satisfaction, convinced that this type of job perfectly suits his talents. The scene shifts to the day of the photo shoot, revealing a bustling studio environment with crew members preparing for the shoot. The younger associate, arms crossed, expresses his surprise at how long the makeup and costume changes are taking, wondering if the female protagonist is still not ready. A single foot, clad in a flip-flop, steps onto the pristine studio floor, signaling the female protagonist's imminent arrival. The younger associate gasps in utter astonishment as he catches sight of the female protagonist, his expression one of pure shock. His eyes are wide with disbelief, an exclamation mark hovering above him, emphasizing his profound shock at what he sees. The female protagonist stands in a truly bizarre, revealing outfit adorned with a white coat and gold accents. The younger associate's stunned question, "What is this outfit?" echoes his confusion. The younger associate remains frozen, his mouth agape in continued shock, unable to process the sight before him. Female protagonist looks down, her expression reflecting confusion at the younger associate's dramatic reaction to her attire. The younger associate, exasperated, questions the situation, calling the outfit lame and suggesting a kimono instead. He then quickly tries to interject, realizing they should ask for clarification. The stern director, however, claps his hands together, beaming with delight and declaring the outfit wonderful, stating it perfectly matches the concept. Female protagonist and the younger associate exchange confused glances, while the stern director proudly proclaims this bizarre ensemble is their current theme. The stern director strikes an exaggerated pose, dramatically announcing his concept, neo-hospitality. He then enthusiastically urges the female protagonist to join him and mimic the pose. Her eyes, however, are wide with horror and disbelief. The female protagonist awkwardly attempts the neo-hospitality pose, looking utterly mortified, while the stern director claps, declaring it perfect. Charismatic executive, seeing the scene, thinks to himself that it looks amazing. The female protagonist covers her mouth, her expression a mix of shock and confusion as the stern director continues to babble on about neo-hospitality. A close-up of a prop bottle precedes the female protagonist's internal fury. She rages, questioning if this neo-hospitality is truly professional and if the director is a genuine expert. The younger associate tries to calm the female protagonist, explaining that high fashion is often incomprehensible to ordinary people. She retorts, reminding him that she is far from ordinary. Younger associate attempts to rationalize the situation, drawing parallels to avant-garde designs seen in Paris Fashion Week, implying that this is just another one of those perplexing trends. The female protagonist listens intently to the younger associate's explanation, still dressed in the peculiar outfit, her expression thoughtful. Her attention is drawn to the word natto emblazoned on her leg. She questions why such a specific and seemingly unrelated element was included. The female protagonist continues to question the natto and the claim of modernity, wondering if it's merely to simplify Japanese culture. The younger associate then reveals the director's infamous name, Seiji Tepe. Stern director, with a confident smile, calls out to the crew, announcing the imminent reveal of the final product. He proudly presents a tablet showcasing the final advertisement as the female protagonist looks on in utter shock and dismay. A close-up reveals the female protagonist's eyes contorted in a grimace of disgust and horror at the sight of the finished ad. The full advertisement is displayed on the tablet, featuring the female protagonist in her neo-hospitality attire, accompanied by the text neo-hospitality spirit. "Let's visit Yoshida restaurant," she gasps in disbelief. Stern director, oblivious to her distress, beams with satisfaction, declaring the ad great and expressing his gratitude to the female protagonist. He continues to praise her, stating that only she could have pulled off such a concept, a compliment that only deepens her visible despair. Left alone, the female protagonist stands dejectedly, the word natto still visible on her leg, a symbol of her recent bewildering experience. The female protagonist, still bearing the bewildering mark of natto, finds herself in a revealing costume. The charismatic executive questions the seriousness of the situation, while the female protagonist confidently asserts that hospitality is fundamentally about providing service. With a confident smile, the charismatic executive elaborates, defining true hospitality as subtly pleasing others without them ever noticing, and declares that neo-hospitality will embody this ultimate example. He then declares that the female protagonist possesses the unique power to control people, a potent force in the realm of hospitality. The female protagonist laughs off the compliment, playfully suggesting his words make her sound like a two-faced manipulator. The charismatic executive quickly corrects her, clarifying that Japanese hospitality is far from two-faced, possessing no hidden or indecent sides. He explains that it means paying meticulous attention to guests, even to their unseen and unnoticed needs. In his mind, the charismatic executive believes only a smart, strong, and independent woman could truly grasp this concept, as the female protagonist acknowledges his words as a significant compliment. The charismatic executive reveals the costume was designed with specific imagery, though it proved challenging. He asserts that with Asia's growing influence, such a costume is acceptable for those who can carry it, praising the female protagonist's beauty, claiming the attire only enhances her natural charm. He exclaims his astonishment, hailing the female protagonist as brilliant. The female protagonist, with a knowing smirk, muses that her inherent charm might have simply radiated forth without her conscious effort. Privately, the female protagonist acknowledges neo-hospitality as a compelling concept, her thoughts focused on the image displayed on her tablet. Her smirk deepens as she thinks the image is exceptionally well captured, a subtle gesture of self-satisfaction. The female protagonist holds her phone, displaying the same controversial image, a look of concern now clouding her features. Suddenly, the charismatic executive chokes on his drink, a sharp gasp escaping him as he reacts with visible shock. Charismatic executive struggles with a fit of coughs, prompting the female protagonist to ask if he's alright. He admits he still can't get used to seeing that particular picture. With a sly smile, the charismatic executive remarks that the image is so impactful it's bound to go viral instantly. The female protagonist and the younger associate exchange surprised glances, a sudden realization dawning upon them. Their gazes fall upon a large billboard featuring the female protagonist in her costume, advertising Yoshida Restaurant, prompting the younger associate to exclaim in recognition. The younger associate, with a smug smile, thinks to himself that such plebeians would never comprehend the high-level artistry behind the advertisement. The charismatic executive proudly declares the billboard his opus magnum, confident that it will be a resounding success. The younger associate beams with delight, affirming his agreement with enthusiasm. Inside the restaurant, Makoto-san, the chef, stands with a worried expression, sensing trouble. Makoto-san asks Emi-chan about Ryosuke-san's whereabouts, and she replies that he had something to attend to outside. Makoto-san's eyes widen in surprise as his phone suddenly rings, a sense of foreboding settling in. Answering the call, Makoto-san identifies himself as Yoshida, only to hear the voice of Nara on the other end. Nara requests to cancel his next reservation, which Makoto-san acknowledges, offering to reschedule for another day. Nara coldly states he has no plans to visit for a while, then pointedly asks Makoto-san if he has seen his billboard, leaving the chef utterly bewildered. Makoto-san's feet rush across the stone path, a growing urgency propelling him forward. Makoto-san and Emi-chan stand frozen in horror, their eyes wide with disbelief at the sight before them. Makoto-san stammers in shock, utterly speechless as he stares at the billboard, struggling to comprehend what he sees. Younger associate arrives, cheerfully greeting Makoto-san and Emi, oblivious to their distress. He apologizes for his tardiness, explaining he was busy taking pictures for social media, then excitedly asks if they find the billboard amazing. Makoto-san explodes in a fit of rage, demanding an immediate explanation for the outrageous situation. The younger associate attempts to explain, mentioning his drinking buddy, the famous Saji Tepe, a name that draws a blank from Makoto-san. Younger associate smirks, surprised by Makoto-san's ignorance, implying that anyone abreast of current trends would surely know the name. Makoto-san remains silent, his face etched with a mixture of confusion and growing frustration. The younger associate proudly elaborates on the exclusivity of having such a famous person create an ad, boasting that Saji Tepe insisted on doing it for him, the future owner. Makoto-san turns to Emi-chan, asking if she recognizes the name, to which she simply shakes her head. The younger associate gestures proudly at the billboard, confirming the model as Asuka, and reiterates his belief that it's a good shot embodying the neo-hospitality concept. The younger associate, brimming with confidence, dismisses any concerns, telling the other person to stop fretting over those who choose to leave. He confidently asserts that anyone with such outdated thinking will quickly be left behind. Despite the younger associate's bravado, the charismatic executive demands to know where the funds for this venture originated. The younger associate casually reveals that the money for this bizarre promotional campaign came directly from the restaurant itself. The charismatic executive's eye widens in pure disbelief, a single word escaping him in utter shock. Female protagonist confronts the younger associate, her voice laced with panic, demanding to know how he could sign such a contract without consulting her or Makoto-san first. The younger associate offers a shallow apology for his unilateral decision, explaining that he knew his proposal would be rejected and he couldn't let such a rare opportunity pass him by. With a disturbingly wide grin, the younger associate declares his certainty that this will bring positive change to Yoshida Restaurant, eagerly anticipating the public's reaction. A phone rings, its insistent tone cutting through the heavy silence, hinting at impending trouble. Female protagonist, her face etched with despair, repeatedly offers her deepest apologies over the phone, the weight of the situation clearly crushing her. The grotesque billboard image of the female protagonist, now defaced with crude insults, stands as a monument to the public's scathing reaction. The full extent of the humiliation is revealed as children mock the billboard, recording their parody for social media, turning the restaurant's image into a public spectacle. Phone screen blazes with trending topics revealing a torrent of negative comments and mockery directed at Yoshida restaurant and the female protagonist, solidifying her public humiliation. Her hair flies wildly as the female protagonist lets out a guttural scream of pure fury, a desperate cry of scammer erupting from her lips. Her heels strike the ground with furious force as she rails against the supposed neo-hospitality, realizing she has become a complete public laughingstock. With a renewed surge of defiance, the female protagonist declares her intent to confront the guy directly, her gaze fixed on the towering building before her. Her eyes burn with a cold, murderous intent as she vows eternal unforgiveness for the man who dared to humiliate her so profoundly. From behind, the female protagonist watches the shadowy pursuer with the distinctive ponytail walk away, a sense of foreboding settling over her. The man turns, revealing a stern, unyielding expression, his dark hair tied back in a striking ponytail. This is the shadowy pursuer. Female protagonist's thoughts race, a name flashing through her mind as she pieces together a disturbing connection, dread beginning to set in. Thorny vines seem to entangle the female protagonist, mirroring the growing despair and confusion within her as she grapples with this new, unsettling revelation. This panel is an out-of-story advertisement for the Scanlation Group, encouraging support and community engagement. This panel informs readers that the comics are previews and encourages purchasing original works for the full experience. Sinister nobleman, with a cruel smile, commands the female protagonist to accept his terms, his voice laced with an undeniable threat. The female protagonist's mind reels in despair, trapped and unsure of how to escape the impossible situation she finds herself in. The intricate details of the female protagonist's dress, adorned with dark roses, reflect the somber elegance of her predicament. With a heavy heart, the female protagonist reluctantly accepts the nobleman's deal, her only plea being for the swift safety of others. The nobleman's smile widens into a triumphant sneer, declaring her decision a wise one, savoring his victory. A momentary pause hangs in the air, the gravity of the decision settling. The nobleman retrieves a small packet from a decorative box, assuring the female protagonist that those she saved will soon awaken, now safe. The young woman rests peacefully on an ornate couch, her slumber a testament to the nobleman's mysterious intervention. From above, two figures lie unconscious on separate couches, their fates now intertwined with the female protagonist's sacrifice. The nobleman, a smirk playing on his lips, instructs two unseen individuals to stand closer together, orchestrating a new arrangement. The female protagonist and a male companion stand with their backs to the viewer, facing the nobleman, their future uncertain. The nobleman lavishes praise upon the female protagonist, declaring her perfect for House Avalon, his gaze filled with possessive satisfaction. The nobleman declares they will now be a family, a chilling pronouncement that the female protagonist can only meekly affirm, her expression hidden. The female protagonist's eye reflects a deep sadness as she internally recounts the unfair deal forced upon them, a desperate measure to erase the scandal of an affair, a poisoning plot, and even an impending divorce. Grand chandelier hangs suspended from the ceiling, illuminating the opulent, yet suffocating, atmosphere of the noble house. The female protagonist recounts her return to House Floria, where she successfully convinced her parents of the dire situation. She then describes confronting Gil and Sherry at the scene of their affair, armed with irrefutable evidence of their betrayal. Weary from the confrontation, the female protagonist acknowledges her deep desire to rest, yet her mind races with the urgent need to prepare countermeasures for an upcoming critical meeting. She mentally sets aside the immediate betrayal by her mother-in-law and Gilbert, recognizing a far more formidable challenge looming ahead. The true obstacle, she realizes, is Dionys, the formidable head of House Avalon, whose influence could easily derail her plans. Though Dionys is currently away on business, the female protagonist knows he will surely return to address the unfolding incident, posing a direct threat to her pursuit of justice. Even if she formally requests a divorce, the female protagonist understands that Dionys is not the kind of man to release her from their marital ties without a significant struggle. A soft click echoes, perhaps a door opening, as the scene shifts to a moment of respite. The charismatic executive brings her tea, asking if she's already strategizing for the impending negotiations. The female protagonist thanks him, lost in thought. The female protagonist confirms her concerns, stating her assumption that Lord Dionys will attempt to destroy the evidence, and she is actively contemplating how to counter his moves. Charismatic executive suggests the necessity of creating replicas of the evidence. The female protagonist agrees, recounting the shady rumors surrounding Lord Dionys, including past cover-ups of medical mistakes. A somber flashback depicts a noble's wife, a victim of Dionys's alleged malpractice, lying lifeless in her bed, surrounded by a haunting, thorny aura. The ominous thorny visuals persist, emphasizing the dark history associated with Lord Dionys and his alleged misdeeds. Scandal erupts as a distraught man cries out that his wife was killed by the wrong medicine, accusing Dionys of a cover-up, spreading distrust throughout the hospital. Yet, without hard proof and with the grieving husband dismissed as half-mad, no charges were ever brought and the truth of the incident was ultimately buried. Returning to the present, the charismatic executive explains the difficulty of finding a trustworthy individual for such a sensitive task within the tight deadline of a week. With a knowing smile, the charismatic executive reveals that he knows just the person. The female protagonist, intrigued, eagerly asks for an introduction. The charismatic executive assures her that this individual is usually at home and can be met anytime. The female protagonist suggests meeting tomorrow, to which he replies that the person would be thrilled to see her. The female protagonist, now in a beautiful new dress, wonders if the talented craftsman they are about to meet truly lives up to his reputation. As they stroll through a vibrant garden, the charismatic executive comments on how long it's been since the female protagonist last visited. She clarifies that she regularly visits her family, recalling her frequent visits during their school days before her marriage. Female protagonist inquires about Lady Sinclair and Ryo, hoping they are doing well, showing her care for the charismatic executive's family. The charismatic executive confirms his mother is well, though out today, and describes Ryo as energetically noisy. The female protagonist expresses her happiness at the news. As they approach a charming, rustic house, a voice calls out from within, asking if anyone is inside. The charismatic executive announces to the female protagonist that this is the person he wanted to introduce. Suddenly, the younger associate bursts out, warmly welcoming his big bro home. Charismatic executive lets out a sigh, seemingly accustomed to his younger brother's boisterous greetings. The younger associate playfully asks the female protagonist if she has anything to say, perhaps commenting on his handsomeness. A title card appears, formally introducing the younger associate as Ryo Sinclair, the second son of the Marquis house. The younger associate chides his older brother for not informing him earlier about the female protagonist's visit, to which the charismatic executive explains the urgency of the matter. The narrator highlights that both brothers are incredibly popular figures within high society. The charismatic executive suggests they go inside, promising a feast of strawberry desserts, and the female protagonist finds the idea of an all-strawberry spread delightful. Inside the elegant room, the trio gathers around a table laden with an array of delectable strawberry treats, ready to discuss their serious business. The younger associate, now serious, summarizes the situation, confirming that they urgently require perfect replicas of certain items. Close-up reveals the wooden box containing the crucial items that need to be replicated with utmost precision. The younger associate remarks on Lord Gilbert's infidelity, declaring it to be truly the worst kind of betrayal. The female protagonist recalls the younger associate's past talents, noting that he was always exceptionally skilled with his hands. Younger associate proudly confirms that he now runs a versatile jack-of-all-trades business, vowing to further hone his skills and cater to any need his clients might have. His confident stance is observed by a small group of people, hinting at his established reputation and broad clientele. The female protagonist expresses her amazement at his capabilities. The younger associate then emphasizes the critical need to keep their requests strictly confidential. The charismatic executive, with a confident smile, acknowledges the female protagonist's admiration for his skills. The female protagonist reflects internally, realizing that her past self would never have dared to embark on such a bold plan. The charismatic executive, with a playful smirk, expresses his approval, stating that he likes this new, more daring version of the female protagonist. With renewed determination, the female protagonist thanks him, vowing to see their intricate plan through to the very end. Against all odds, the crucial replicas are completed just in the nick of time, setting the stage for their next move. Two intricately crafted wooden boxes sit open, revealing an array of colorful vials and tools prepared for their intended purpose. Scattered papers, covered in hurried sketches and notes, hint at the meticulous planning and effort poured into their clandestine operation. An OK mark on one of the papers signifies the successful completion of a crucial stage, adding to the growing pile of evidence. The charismatic executive expresses his relief at their success, confident that these replicas will easily deceive everyone. The female protagonist gasps in awe, remarking on the incredible quality of the replicas, finding them indistinguishable from the originals. The younger associate boasts about his hard work, while the charismatic executive chides him not to fall asleep, and the female protagonist checks if he is alright. The narrative shifts to the present as the female protagonist's inner monologue reveals the true evidence is safely hidden, securing their temporary safety. The stern director, kneeling before the female protagonist and the charismatic executive, assures them he will silence anyone who witnessed the incident at the hospital. The female protagonist observes the stern director's smug smile, realizing he truly believes the fabricated affair never even happened. A shout echoes through the room, calling out to the stern director as the tense confrontation begins to unfold. The stern director greets the charismatic executive, who is still recovering, warning him not to move too soon after his sudden collapse. The stern director's sinister grin widens as he mockingly questions the charismatic executive's accusations. The charismatic executive, still weak, vehemently accuses the stern director of drugging them, as three people collapsing simultaneously defies all logic. The stern director's mouth curls into a mocking smile, dismissing the charismatic executive's claims with a condescending tone. The stern director smugly challenges the charismatic executive for proof, asserting he merely treated those who collapsed and that turning on him is ill-mannered. The charismatic executive glares, barely able to contain his rage as he faces the stern director's brazen manipulation. The stern director reveals his latest maneuver. The divorce discussion has been voided, with the female protagonist supposedly admitting her misunderstanding. The charismatic executive, though silent, internally refutes the stern director's lies, knowing such a confession from the female protagonist is impossible. The stern director turns to the female protagonist, seeking her confirmation, his gaze demanding her compliance in this twisted charade. The charismatic executive desperately demands to know where the evidence went, while the female protagonist can only utter her own name in distress. With a heavy heart, the female protagonist apologizes to her parents, trapped in a situation where she must betray their expectations. Caught in House Avalon, the female protagonist realizes she has no choice but to play along with the stern director, fearing his next move. An older female observer looks on with a horrified expression, witnessing the unfolding drama with clear shock. The charismatic executive's face contorts in anguish as he utters the female protagonist's name, unable to comprehend her apparent betrayal. The stern director declares the matter settled, asserting that the female protagonist will remain the Duchess of House Avalon from this point forward. Charismatic executive explodes in fury, refusing to accept the outrageous turn of events and demanding that they cannot simply leave things as they are. The stern director places a hand on the female protagonist's shoulder, calmly warning the charismatic executive and the other female to settle down or he will call the servants. The charismatic executive, utterly disgusted, declares the situation an outrage, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. The charismatic executive looks on, his expression a mix of shock and despair, as the female protagonist remains silent beside him. With a hardened gaze, the charismatic executive steels himself, clearly resolved to fight against this injustice, no matter the cost. The weight of injustice presses down, as a bitter memory of betrayal unfolds, revealing a past where innocence was shattered and fury ignited. Within a lavish hall, the nobleman shares a pleasant moment with the Duchess, their smiles seemingly untroubled. Suddenly, a shadow of distress crosses the rival's face, her expression twisting in anguish as she observes the scene from afar. Anger erupts as she confronts the Duchess, shouting, "Sherry," in a fit of rage, the underlying pain evident in her voice. The rival's thoughts spiral, consumed by the agonizing realization that it's always like this. She is tormented by the unfairness, perceiving the Duchess as plain and undeserving. Her internal monologue continues, questioning why the Duchess is always chosen, despite her own conviction that Gilbert loves me, her face contorted in frustrated fury. Overwhelmed by her emotions, the rival violently smashes a vase, screaming, "Number 1," as her rage reaches its peak. The Duchess recoils, startled by the outburst, as the rival storms past her, leaving a trail of shattered porcelain and emotional wreckage. The Duchess's eyes widen in shock, rose petals falling around her, as she realizes the depth of the rival's resentment, who was this close to becoming the lady of the house. The Duchess stands frozen, clutching her chest, the weight of the confrontation visibly impacting her. A fleeting moment of peace is shattered as the Duchess's hand trembles, reflecting the shock and pain she has just endured. The scene shifts abruptly to a modern setting where the deceitful husband confronts the female protagonist, asking, "Emmy, why are you here?" his face etched with panic. The female protagonist stares back with an unnerving intensity, revealing her knowledge with a chilling statement, "I know everything." The deceitful husband stammers, caught off guard, while the younger associate, a waiter, stands awkwardly in the background, witnessing the tense encounter. The younger associate nervously interrupts, addressing the deceitful husband, "Dear customer, how about the payment?" clearly uncomfortable with the situation. With a slight smile, the female protagonist calmly declares, "I'm sorry, I disabled that card so it can't be used," revealing her decisive action. Deceitful husband reacts with a shocked "What?" as the female protagonist, still composed, offers, "Please use this one instead." The female protagonist presents a new card, her gesture firm and unyielding, signaling her control over the situation. A moment of awkward silence hangs between the deceitful husband and the female protagonist, their distance palpable. The deceitful husband attempts to explain, my old acquaintance. My junior from university is the manager there," trying to justify his presence. Female protagonist turns her back, walking away, ignoring his attempts at explanation, leaving him to face the consequences. The deceitful husband's thoughts race, realizing, "She completely ignored me. Emmy really is angry now," his face showing clear panic. From above, the female protagonist is seen entering a taxi, leaving the deceitful husband behind, as he reflects, "Well, she's a proper rich lady." His thoughts continue, acknowledging, of course she'd be shaken to catch her perfect husband hanging out at such a place, understanding her reaction. A wave of anxiety washes over him as he wonders, "Emmy, are you angry?" the question lingering in the dark atmosphere. The deceitful husband watches the female protagonist, who stands with her back to him, the tension thick between them. He attempts to appease her, stating, "I guess this is a normal reaction since you found your husband in a happening bar. I should have told you earlier. Sorry." Female protagonist turns with a chilling gaze, commanding, "Listen, I know everything, didn't I say that?" her words cutting through his excuses. The deceitful husband's eyes widen in terror, a cold sweat breaking out as he thinks, could it be that she also found out that I like BDSM? His panic intensifies as he questions, "But how did my ex-co-workers snitch on me to Emmy?" while 3 women watch, aghast. Female protagonist with a determined expression calmly states, now that I know, I think divorce is the only option. The deceitful husband recoils in horror, stuttering, divorce, the word echoing his utter disbelief and fear. He desperately pleads, wait a minute, Emmy, I'm finished if we get divorced, his world crumbling around him. His internal panic continues, fearing, Asuka will surely throw me away, and I'm also gonna lose my job if I get fired at Yoshida restaurant. Desperation consumes him as he realizes, there's no way I can let go of this lavish lifestyle I've had. Time to steel myself. He bows deeply before the female protagonist, groveling, I'm really sorry for not telling you that I like BDSM, a desperate attempt to salvage his situation. He continues to plead, explaining, I thought you'd despise me if I were to be honest to you, so I couldn't bring myself to come out. Female protagonist remains silent, her expression unreadable, leaving the deceitful husband in agonizing suspense. He tries to rationalize, Emmy, however, there's nothing wrong with liking BDSM. His words are met with the female protagonist's piercing gaze. The female protagonist's expression is one of intense focus as she hears, such a thing alone isn't a crime. This is a complex moment, as if she's processing his justification. The scared man's eyes widen in terror, his mind reeling as he sees a vision of a masked figure and a smiling woman, murmuring, Yukiko-san. His memory flashes back to a hand turning a doorknob, recalling, she was a very kind lady. She told me various interesting stories about a world I'd never known existed. I even considered visiting her BDSM bar next time. The scared man stands frozen, paralyzed by the sudden onslaught of his dark past as the female protagonist observes him from the doorway. His face contorts in a silent scream, his eyes bulging with a horrifying realization of the events unfolding. His gaze falls upon a wall plastered with disturbing photos, a woman's face contorted in agony, an older man assaulting a younger woman. He whispers, no way. One image shows a man's face, eyes rolled back, a disturbing smile on his lips, drool escaping his mouth. Another photo reveals the same man, still smiling unsettlingly as the word everything echoes in the scared man's mind. Chilling image of a man bound and blindfolded in BDSM gear solidifies the grim reality of the world he once considered visiting. Yet another photo captures a man in a suit mid-stride, a look of desperate flight etched across his face. Returning to the present, the scared man kneels before the female protagonist who declares, this is a small part of my repayment for you and Asuka. Scared man, visibly shaken, questions her repayment. The female protagonist, her expression cold and resolute, addresses him directly, Ryosuke. Your sin is that you've told me so many lies. You've wasted away my parents' inheritance. A shudder runs through the scared man as his eye widens in silent shock, the weight of her words crashing down on him. He murmurs, so you know that too, to which the female protagonist simply replies, yes, holding a document with an unreadable expression. Female protagonist presents a divorce registration form. The scared man, desperate, clings to her arm, pleading, please, don't throw me away. A chilling, predatory smile spreads across the female protagonist's face as she accuses him, you're in cahoots with Asuka who murdered your own child. Are you even still a human? The scared man's face is drenched in sweat, his expression one of utter horror and despair. The female protagonist's voice drops, offering a twisted olive branch, but there's a way for you to be forgiven. He looks up, confused, She calmly states, you'll be in great trouble if we divorce now, won't you? She details his impending ruin. You won't be able to stay at Yoshida restaurant and will lose your job, but you'll still have to pay your alimony to me since you were cheating. The scared man, desperate, cries out, I'll do anything, just tell me. With a sinister smile, the female protagonist holds a small doll and scissors, revealing her demand, evidence that Asuka had arranged the murder of my child. Scared man recoils, are you telling me to be your spy? The female protagonist responds, I'll let you off the hook if you can get that evidence for me. A hand ominously covers a photo of a terrified woman as the female protagonist's true intent is revealed, I'll repay Asuka by pushing her to the depths of despair. The female protagonist's face is a mask of disturbed determination, her hand clutching her shirt in a display of her intense resolve. The scared man stands in silence, his mind consumed by a dark thought, it'd be wise to just abandon Asuka and switch sides to Emmy. Defeated, the scared man finally concedes, I get it, I'll do whatever you say. Female protagonist's eye, now calm and calculating, reflects her triumph, the first stage of her vengeance complete. Under the serene crescent moon, a towering city building stands illuminated, marking a transition to a new scene. The female protagonist and the charismatic executive sit at a stylish bar. She thanks him, thank you for coming today even though I contacted you so suddenly. Charismatic executive, with a charming smile, responds, I'm sure any man would fly straight to you if you were to invite them regardless of their initial schedule. Getting straight to business, the female protagonist asks, so, did you find out anything about Tsujiya? He reports his lack of progress, I've been looking into it a lot but I haven't found a single lead. The female protagonist simply replies, I see. Charismatic executive continues, I think he's a pro at this. I need more time. Sorry. She reassures him, don't worry. Thank you for helping me. Please contact me once you find anything. He agrees, sure, I will. The female protagonist's thoughts turn inward. There have been a number of strange incidents happening around Ryosuke and me recently. I wonder if Sujiya was also related to all of that. She suspects a deeper connection. A subtle moment of connection as the female protagonist's hand rests on the bar, the charismatic executive's hand gently near hers. The charismatic executive reaches out, his hand gently covering hers as he urges her, still, don't do anything too dangerous. His eye narrows with a serious resolve as he states, it's my job to do dangerous things. The charismatic executive explains, I can't speak about that here. The female protagonist, intrigued, asks, don't tell me. Her thoughts turn dark, a sense of dread filling the air. Murder was also included. Continuing his sinister confession, the charismatic executive reveals, but yes, I've done it once. Her eye widens in pure disbelief, the realization of his dark past hitting her hard. With a sly, alluring smile, the female protagonist offers, I have a room on the upper floor. She continues, her voice a low invitation, we can use it freely. The tension hangs heavy in the air, a silent moment before a pivotal decision. Her suggestive smile persists as she repeats, I have a room on the upper floor. Her words echo, a direct invitation, we can use it freely. The scene shifts, leaving the intimate exchange behind as the narrative progresses. A short while later, the female protagonist and the charismatic executive stand side by side, awaiting the elevator. The charismatic executive asks, what's wrong? As the female protagonist looks up, a hint of surprise on her face. The charismatic executive states, it's impossible after all. The female protagonist responds with a confused, huh. The charismatic executive pulls back, expressing his distress, my hands are dirty. I can't possibly touch you with these hands. The female protagonist gently takes his hand, reassuring him with a soft smile, no, they're not dirty at all. Flustered, the charismatic executive insists, wait, I'll clean up my surroundings first. He then looks at the female protagonist, a hint of shyness in his expression as he adds, after that. Female protagonist's internal thoughts betray her. This guy'll be totally useless to me if he becomes a regular citizen, and yet. From the shadows, the shadowy pursuer observes their tender moment, a sinister thought forming, well, okay, I'll wait for you. The shadowy pursuer captures their image, a dark question swirling in his mind, that woman, is she Morinaga's lover? His face contorts in rage as he glares at the image on his phone, seething, Morinaga Taiga, I swear I'll destroy you. A few days later, the female protagonist sits alone on her bed, a sense of quiet contemplation in the air. Still processing recent events, the female protagonist thinks, I still feel weird. This is my first time being like this. Her mind drifts back to the charismatic executive's charming smile, a lingering image in her thoughts. A blush creeps across the female protagonist's face, her heart fluttering with a mix of emotions. Lying on her bed, the female protagonist yearns internally, I want him to hug me. Suddenly, her attention snaps to her phone, a surprised exclamation escaping her lips, Morinaga-kun. She glances at her phone, seeing a job offer, and dismisses her initial excitement with an internal, geez, it's just a job offer. The stern director greets her warmly, Ito Asuka-sama. Thank you for making time to come. He presents a business card, introducing himself, my name is Kirino. The female protagonist smiles politely, returning the greeting, it's my pleasure to meet you. The female protagonist's thoughts reveal her caution, I got fooled once by Sujiya, so I was thinking of turning it down right away once I spotted anything suspicious, but it seemed like everything was done properly. The stern director concludes, asking, that's all from me. Do you perhaps have any questions? The female protagonist replies simply, no. The stern director suggests, actually, our photography studio is just a short walk from here. If you still have time after this, would you like to take a look for a bit? The female protagonist beams, enthusiastically accepting, I'd love to. They walk together down a dimly lit street, the atmosphere growing subtly ominous. The female protagonist looks around, a sense of unease creeping in as she thinks, what the, is there really any studio around this part? As the female protagonist begins to call out, excuse dash, a sudden, sharp sound erupts behind her. Before she can react, a hand clamps over her mouth, a sudden, shocking attack. The shadowy pursuer holds the female protagonist tightly, silencing her struggles as she lets out a muffled, HNG. The trap has been sprung. The shadowy pursuer casts a triumphant glance back at the female protagonist, who is now completely restrained by his accomplices. The trap has indeed sprung, leaving her utterly helpless. Chilling smile spreads across the shadowy pursuer's face as he assures the female protagonist, relax, you'll be okay. His words are a cruel mockery of her dire situation. The female protagonist's eye widens in pure terror, a silent scream trapped behind her bound mouth. Her desperate struggle is met only with the cold reality of her capture. The hooded figures waste no time, swiftly forcing the female protagonist into the back of a waiting black van while the shadowy pursuer observes his plan unfold. Unaware of the unfolding disaster, the charismatic executive tries desperately to reach the female protagonist, a flicker of concern crossing his sharp features. Charismatic executive mutters in frustration, realizing she's not picking up. His concern deepens as he notes, no reply to my chat either. With worry escalating, the charismatic executive reveals his desperate measure. I decided to spy on her, but I can't seem to get in touch with her. He adds, she never treats me like this. A wave of panic washes over the charismatic executive, his eye reflecting the growing fear that something is terribly wrong. Charismatic executive's mind races. Could it be? Did she know I'm switching sides to you? The image of the female protagonist in his mind firmly dismisses the thought. That can't be. The charismatic executive presses the thought. How are you so sure? As the female protagonist remains engrossed in her phone, a thoughtful expression on her face. A memory surfaces. Morinaga-san said that he was called by the female protagonist to talk the other day, but nothing seemed out of place at that time. Female protagonist's imagined voice replies, because someone confirmed it for me. The charismatic executive's thoughts echo, someone did. So you have another ally? With a dismissive tone, the charismatic executive retorts, it's none of your business, his gaze firm as he holds his phone. A surge of frustration and confusion hits the charismatic executive, his internal thoughts demanding, who in the world is her ally? Back in the present, the female protagonist lies helpless on the cold floor, her hands bound and eyes blindfolded, the reality of her capture sinking in. The shadowy pursuer adjusts his tie with a smirk, formally greeting his captive. I welcome you, Ito Asuka-san. The female protagonist's eye snaps open in shock as a hand pulls back her blindfold, revealing her wide, terrified gaze. Grim reality of her situation is laid bare. The female protagonist kneels, bound, surrounded by the shadowy pursuer, the brute enforcer, and another accomplice, with two cameras ominously pointed at her. A chilling thought echoes in the female protagonist's mind. Where is this? As the camera pans to a blood-stained mattress, hinting at unspeakable horrors. Nearby, a discarded pink dress, a black ribbon, and used bandages litter the floor, painting a grim picture of past events in this sinister room. The female protagonist glares defiantly, demanding answers. What are you planning by bringing me to a place like this? Shadowy pursuer smirks, noting, as expected, she's a tough one. The brute enforcer adds with a chilling smile, she has the potential to become a star. The female protagonist's voice rises in a furious shout, stop mocking me. She threatens, my agency will definitely make a fuss if I were to suddenly disappear. You won't get out of this unscathed. The shadowy pursuer's smirk widens as he holds up a tablet, displaying a compromising photo of the female protagonist and the charismatic executive, clearly a tool for blackmail. The female protagonist's eye widens in horror, a silent gasp escaping her as she recognizes the damning image. The shadowy pursuer chuckles darkly, confessing, when I tried to snoop around the back door, the truth came out one after another. He adds mockingly, what a scary woman. Female protagonist stares, stunned, as the shadowy pursuer reveals the extent of her secrets. I know there have been instances where your agency covered up cases that were about to be exposed. But apparently, there are also cases where you paid money yourself to keep the other side quiet. The shadowy pursuer praises his own efforts. You did well. Then, with a predatory gaze, he challenges the female protagonist. So what are you gonna do knowing all that? The shadowy pursuer delivers his ultimatum with a wicked grin. If you don't obey, these pictures will be all over the place in no time. Is that all right? Meanwhile, at a quiet cafe, the charismatic executive's phone vibrates, pulling him from his thoughts. Glance at his phone reveals an unknown caller, presenting the charismatic executive with a choice to answer. The charismatic executive answers cautiously, hello, a serious expression etched on his face. A voice on the other end states, it's been a while, Morinaga Taiga. The charismatic executive's jaw tightens in confusion. Who? The shadowy pursuer, revealed as Kirino Yuta, grins into the phone. It's me, Kirino Yuta. The man who spent 8 years in prison thanks to you snitching on me. Charismatic executive's eyes widen in recognition, a single name escaping his lips, Kirino. The charismatic executive demands, what do you want from me? Kirino Yuta's voice expresses surprise, I can't believe you're being so cooperative. The shadowy pursuer reveals his cruel hand, your woman's here with me, as the female protagonist is visible, bound behind him. The charismatic executive's face twists in utter shock, realizing the true horror of the situation. The shadowy pursuer repeats his chilling declaration with a triumphant smirk, your woman is here with me, his gaze fixed on the utterly helpless the female protagonist. Charismatic executive's eyes widen in disbelief and fury as the chilling words echo in his mind, realizing the gravity of the accusation directed at him. The shadowy pursuer's voice cuts through, demanding the charismatic executive come to a shared location, threatening, come to the location I'll share with you if you don't want anything to happen to her. The charismatic executive tries to interject, calling out, wait, Kirino. Charismatic executive stares at the map on his phone, his mind racing, grappling with the horrifying realization, he thought Itu was my woman, and he kidnapped her. A deep sigh escapes the charismatic executive as he runs a hand through his hair, overwhelmed by the absurd and dangerous misunderstanding, muttering, give me a break. The narrative shifts to reveal the ominous chapter title, The Betrayed Wife's Resentful Revenge, Chapter 20. On a video call, the charismatic executive apologizes to his contact, explaining, sorry for this. I'm afraid he'll try to target you too if we meet in person. Female protagonist, her brow furrowed with concern, questions the charismatic executive, how did that man named Kirino hold such grudge against you? He reveals it stems from events around 10 years ago. The charismatic executive's past is unveiled, revealing his former life as a debt collector. He states, "My job was collecting money from people who had gotten into debt with loan sharks." He recounts a specific mission, capturing a young businessman, a frequent patron of underground casinos. "When I looked into him, found out that he was involved in the AV business, which forces women to appear in porn." The female protagonist's eyes widen in horror, a gasp escaping her lips as she processes the cruel reality, exclaiming, "Forced? How cruel!" Despite his job's clear objective to simply apprehend a man, the charismatic executive admits, "My job was supposed to be done when I caught and handed him over to the organization. But I couldn't turn a blind eye once I knew his deeds." Driven by a sense of justice, the charismatic executive secretly leaked the incriminating information to a trusted detective, stating, "After that, everyone involved in the studio was arrested." The scene explodes into action as the charismatic executive, still in his debt collector role, apprehends the businessman, while in the background, other individuals from the corrupt studio are also taken into custody. The female protagonist asks for clarification, wondering, and Kirino-san was one of them. The charismatic executive confirms, revealing, "Yeah, apparently he was the boss." Charismatic executive explains his recent research. It seems Kirino has started the business again. He warns the female protagonist that ignoring him will only endanger it too, then asks, "But what do you want to do?" The female protagonist remains silent, her expression shifting from concern to a quiet, resolute determination as she processes the information and weighs her options. The female protagonist boldly asks the charismatic executive, "Is it possible for you to go save her?" Taken aback, he acknowledges his capability but questions her motives. "Why would you want to help her?" A calculating glint enters the female protagonist's eyes as she declares, "I think this is our chance." She reminds him, "Asuka called you over to the hotel not long ago. She probably started to take interest in you." Asuka, a woman with long dark hair, glances back flirtatiously at the charismatic executive who, with a slight blush, acknowledges her potential interest, muttering, perhaps." The female protagonist's chibi face appears, confidently stating that if he saves her now, she'll definitely fall for you completely. Asuka smiles gleefully, surrounded by hearts. Charismatic executive's chibi head appears, a realization dawning. "I see. It'll be easier to control her if she catches feelings for me." The female protagonist, however, hints at deeper motivations, saying, "That's one of the reasons, but..." The female protagonist's expression twists into a sinister smile, her eyes glinting with dark satisfaction. She reveals her true intent. "I thought this is the perfect opportunity to repay her for my despair of being betrayed by someone I loved." A visible shudder runs through the charismatic executive as he recoils, startled by the chilling depth of the female protagonist's vengeful resolve. Settling back into his chair, the charismatic executive agrees to the plan, declaring, "All right, I'll save Itu in the coolest way possible so she'll fall for me." The charismatic executive's contact warns him against proceeding if the risk is too great, but he responds with a confident smirk, assuring them, "Relax, I know how to break in. It's my forte, after all." On a desolate street, the charismatic executive kneels, skillfully using a tool to pry open a manhole cover, the soft click-click signaling the start of his infiltration. With a decisive clank, the charismatic executive removes the manhole cover, a determined expression on his face as he prepares to descend into the unknown, stating, "Okay." Inside the building, a lone guard stands idly by a door, unaware of the impending breach. The charismatic executive, moving with practiced stealth, crouches behind a wall, carefully observing the unsuspecting guard, effectively hides. A swift, brutal thwack echoes, followed by a grunt of pain as the charismatic executive expertly neutralizes the guard in a single, decisive strike, eliciting a "gukh" from the fallen man. Standing over the unconscious guard, the charismatic executive swiftly applies handcuffs, the metallic clink confirming his efficiency. A key slides into a lock, a soft clack preceding the door's opening. Inside, the long-haired woman looks up, her eyes wide with surprise and a glimmer of hope. The charismatic executive rushes to her side, asking, "Itu, are you okay?" Her face lights up with recognition and relief as she exclaims, "Morinagake-un." The woman suddenly notices a surveillance camera in the corner of the room, exclaiming, "Wait, there's a surveillance camera here," as the lens seems to zoom in. Charismatic executive offers a reassuring wink, confidently revealing his foresight. "Don't worry, I've made sure it keeps looping footage from before I enter." The woman gazes at him, her eyes wide with admiration, a sparkling aura around her as she mentally declares him an expert. The charismatic executive carefully guides the woman through the manhole, helping her ascend, the soft click of the cover echoing their escape. The woman stares in astonishment at the open manhole, exclaiming her surprise, "You came from there?" The charismatic executive simply urges her to go. As they ascend the ladder, the woman voices her concern, "Won't they come after us?" The charismatic executive calmly reassures her, revealing, "It'll be alright because I spread false information beforehand." Crouching low, the charismatic executive elaborates on his cunning plan, explaining, "I deliberately consulted with someone connected to Kirino about how to sneak in here, and asked them to have my car ready at the exit too." The female protagonist blushes deeply, her thoughts betraying her admiration. "Morinaga-kun, you're so cool." With a firm grip on the ladder, the charismatic executive instructs, "I'll go first. Don't climb up until I'm done checking the outside." A quiet gata confirms the female protagonist's understanding. The charismatic executive cautiously emerges from the manhole, his eyes darting left and right, scanning the surroundings. It's clear, the charismatic executive declares, extending a hand to help the female protagonist from the manhole. She breathes a sigh of relief, murmuring, "Phew, we're safe." Female protagonist turns to the charismatic executive, her expression filled with gratitude as she begins, "Morinaga-kun, thank." Suddenly, a blinding flash erupts, startling both the charismatic executive and the female protagonist, their eyes wide with alarm. Three figures emerge from the shadows, their forms growing distinct as they advance towards the charismatic executive and the female protagonist, their approach clearly a threat. Gruff voice cuts through the night as the brute enforcer sneers, "Heya, so you're Morinaga Taiga." The charismatic executive responds with a cool smirk, "Kirino, huh, this is the first time we meet." One of the approaching men remarks, "It doesn't feel right to call this our first meeting." The charismatic executive simply replies, I agree." The brute enforcer challenges, "Still, aren't you supposed to be waiting at a different exit?" The charismatic executive, unfazed, retorts, "Did you really think I'd fall for such a cheap trick?" The brute enforcer lets out a dismissive snort, admitting, "Honestly, I did." Charismatic executive's smirk widens as he needles, "I can't help but underestimate you because you were arrested in the lamest way possible before." The brute enforcer lets out a frustrated ha and declares, "I've been keeping up with your tricks for the past 8 years. That's why I was so surprised you come all the way out here just for that woman." The female protagonist looks up at the charismatic executive, her concern evident as she utters his name, "Morinaga-kun." The charismatic executive's gaze hardens, his internal thoughts revealing a deeper motive. "It wasn't for this woman I came." At him, the brute enforcer barks, pointing a finger as one of his henchmen lunges forward. With a swift, powerful swing, the charismatic executive unleashes a punch, aiming to neutralize the immediate threat. The charismatic executive's fist connects with a brutal smack, eliciting a sharp guf from the henchman as he recoils from the impact. Before he can recover, another henchman delivers a swift kick, catching the charismatic executive off guard. The charismatic executive clenches his jaw in pain, while the female protagonist cries out in alarm, "Morinaga-kun." The brute enforcer whips around, his face contorted in a furious snarl as he bellows, "Huh." The brute enforcer roughly grabs the female protagonist, then silences her with a harsh slap, "Shut up, you bitch," she screams, "Kaya." Charismatic executive turns sharply, his eyes widening in a silent exclamation of horror as he witnesses the female protagonist being assaulted. The shadowy pursuer grins menacingly, a metal pipe gripped in his hand, and taunts, "Don't look away now." The shadowy pursuer brings the pipe down with a sickening smack, eliciting a pained ugh from the charismatic executive. The charismatic executive stumbles, his vision blurring as he wobbles unsteadily from the powerful blow. With a heavy thump, the charismatic executive collapses to the ground, leaving the female protagonist vulnerable as the three henchmen close in. Far from the chaos, a phone rings insistently, the caller ID displaying Asuka as it vibrates in a hand. The younger associate, visibly distressed, exclaims, "She's still not answering. It doesn't seem she's at home either. Something's wrong." The woman calmly interjects, "Morinaga-san is currently on his way to save her. Stop fretting." Younger associate's eyes widen in disbelief, "Morinaga-san? You mean Morinaga Taiga?" The younger associate, agitated, knocks over a cup as he questions, "Was he your ally, Emi? But how? Since when are you two so close?" The woman explains, "Morinaga-san has been helping me with my repayment from the beginning, since we met again at the reunion." The younger associate stares, a realization dawning on him as he asks, "Emi, are you in love with that guy?" The woman sighs, a hint of melancholy in her voice as she remarks, "I envy your blissfulness." The younger associate turns abruptly, his expression a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. Younger associate grits his teeth, his inner turmoil exploding as he thinks, "The hell, how can Emi talk about another man besides me?" Meanwhile, the female protagonist, trapped in the alley, worries internally, "It's about time he contacted me. I wonder if he's alright." The night sky hangs heavy over a desolate building, its windows dark and uninviting, a stark contrast to the quiet anxiety gripping the female protagonist. A low groan escapes the lips of the charismatic executive, his face bruised and battered as he slowly regains consciousness. His eyes snap open, a jolt of alarm hitting him as he finds himself bound tightly to a chair, trapped. A looming figure steps into view, their voice dripping with menace, asking if the charismatic executive is finally awake. Despite his binds, the charismatic executive retorts with a defiant smirk, calling their crude setup a pretty cheap setting. The brute enforcer snorts, his grin widening, and promises the charismatic executive that his haughty attitude won't last much longer. Charismatic executive demands to know where's Edu, only to be met with the chilling reply from one of his captors that they plan to drug her tomorrow and begin filming. A tray laden with syringes clacks ominously into view, eliciting a sharp, worried gasp from the charismatic executive. But for now, the malevolent focus shifts, a dark energy beginning to swirl, signaling a new phase of torment. With a sickening swing, the brute enforcer brings a golf club down, declaring with a twisted grin that this is where their fun truly begins. Brutal smack echoes through the room as blood splatters across the floor, signifying a devastating blow. Meanwhile, the female protagonist desperately kicks at a locked door, her cries of "let me out" and "get me out of here" echoing with frantic urgency. Her frantic gaze peers through a small window in the door, her expression etched with fear as she observes blurry figures in the room beyond. Her eyes widen in horror as she recognizes the scene, a woman being forcibly led away by two shadowy figures. A shudder runs through the female protagonist as the realization hits her, a woman. Her face contorts in pure terror. The screen transitions to a title card announcing the betrayed wife's resentful revenge, Chapter 21, setting the stage for the unfolding drama. The chilling clank of metal echoes once more, hinting at continued violence just out of sight. Brute Enforcer, golf club in hand, looks genuinely surprised, muttering a confused "huh." The Brute Enforcer taunts the charismatic executive, who now lies bloodied and beaten on the floor, asking where his vigor has vanished to. His eyes barely open, the charismatic executive thinks to himself, accepting his grim fate, "Guess this is it." Lying broken on the floor, the charismatic executive laments his failure, recalling his promise to her that he could handle it, now beaten and pathetic. The stern director, his face contorted in anger, barks out a sharp "hey. Listen to me." The stern director snarls, delivering a vicious kick to the charismatic executive's prone body, eliciting a pained grunt. His vision blurs, the world fading as he internally sighs, "Geez." Coughing blood, the charismatic executive's mind drifts, wondering, what was my life even all about? A flashback shows him as a forlorn child, reflecting that nothing ever changed. He recalls his lonely school days, thinking, there's nothing good in it at all. A faint smack echoes, perhaps from the past or the present. The painful memories continue, showing him as a young man being relentlessly beaten by other students. Suddenly, a young girl, resembling the female protagonist, stands up and bravely calls out, "Excuse me." With unwavering conviction, the younger version of the female protagonist declares, "You must be mistaken, sensei," her voice firm in defense. Back in the present, the charismatic executive, still bleeding, whispers internally, "Forgive me, Yoshida." His thoughts continue to a memory where he promised to help a woman with her repayment, yet he abandoned her midway, now wondering if she was okay on her own. In another poignant memory, as they sign documents, he wishes he had expressed his thanks to her before his impending death. A sharp click echoes, followed by the female protagonist's voice calling out, "Excuse me." The charismatic executive's bloodied face remains still, his eyes closed, barely clinging to consciousness. He barely registers the voice, wondering, is that Yoshida's voice, but quickly dismisses it as a hallucination. Brute Enforcer whirls around, his expression shifting from malice to confusion, demanding, "Who the hell are you?" The stern director, golf club still in hand, stares in disbelief at the female protagonist standing defiantly in the doorway, questioning how she managed to enter. The charismatic executive's eyes flutter open, a flicker of disbelief and surprise crossing his bloodied face as he sees her. A single, profound question echoes in his mind, "Why?" As the chaos unfolds, a new presence arrives. The female protagonist steps into the grim scene, her eyes scanning the brutalized room. Her voice cuts through the tension, a fierce demand for the immediate release of the charismatic executive. The Brute Enforcer, taken aback by her sudden appearance, roars back, questioning her identity. He brandishes his weapon, his gaze accusatory as he demands to know how she entered. Nearby, the charismatic executive lies battered and bleeding on the cold floor, a stark reminder of the brutality at play. Undeterred by the danger, the female protagonist stands her ground, a silent resolve hardening her expression. Her eyes narrow, reflecting a steely determination despite the overwhelming odds. The antagonist scoffs, claiming the charismatic executive was merely arrested for trespassing, but the female protagonist, undeterred, retorts that they also kidnapped Asuka. The Brute Enforcer smirks, revealing his true intentions by stating that since she knows too much, he cannot let her go home. With a menacing step, the shadowy pursuer advances, stick raised, ready to strike the female protagonist. On the floor, the charismatic executive coughs out a desperate warning to Yoshida to run, "Go away." His face contorts in anguish as he desperately screams out Yoshida, a final plea for her to escape. A brutal swing of the stick slices through the air, aimed directly at the female protagonist. The female protagonist reacts instantly, her form a blur as she avoids the crushing blow. Suddenly, a powerful voice echoes, commanding, "Stop," halting the attack mid-swing. The room falls silent as the stern director strides in, wielding a stick himself, his presence commanding immediate attention. Shadowy pursuer glares, utterly bewildered, demanding to know, "The hell is this old fart?" The Brute Enforcer gasps in recognition, his eyes wide with fear as he whispers, "Mr. Nara." The stern director maintains his stern gaze, his authority undeniable as he surveys the scene. Two other henchmen exchange terrified glances, realizing they're facing the real deal and are so dead. With a decisive stomp, the female protagonist, now wearing a fox mask, takes action, her movement swift and powerful. The female protagonist kneels beside the charismatic executive, asking tenderly if he is okay, to which he responds weakly, "Yeah, somehow." She gently pulls out a handkerchief, noting his injuries with concern, stating he's bleeding a lot. Her touch is soft as she tends to his wounds, a silent moment of care amidst the lingering tension. The charismatic executive looks up at her, a flicker of surprise and gratitude in his eyes as she cleans his bloodied face. A new, perplexing question blossoms in the female protagonist's mind. Why is my heart beating so fast at a time like this? As they sit, hands intertwined, she continues her internal monologue, wondering if she's going nuts because I almost crossed the bridge. Meanwhile, the stern director turns his attention to the brute enforcer, demanding that Mr. Kirino better explain himself. The stern director asserts his investment was in a film production, not a criminal organization. The brute enforcer, sweating, attempts a feeble excuse that it's a misunderstanding. As the brute enforcer claims they're just filming a gore movie, the stern director's fury erupts, screaming, "Don't lie to me." With a furious crush, the stern director shatters a piece of wood in his hand, terrifying the brute enforcer, who yelps, "Hi!" Brute enforcer freezes in terror as unseen figures move to halt his escape. Two imposing men in suits and sunglasses stand behind the brute enforcer, who can only manage a terrified "ah." The stern director delivers a chilling promise, stating he has a lot of friends in prison and will be sure to take good care of you, so rest assured. Brute enforcer collapses, slumped to the floor in defeat as the stern director's authority brings the chaotic scene to a close. The charismatic executive, still recovering, asks why Mr. Nara is here, to which the female protagonist explains that Mr. Nara runs the top-level holding of this company. The female protagonist lets out a soft luff and gasp, processing the new, shocking revelation about the stern director's true power. Still reeling from the shocking revelation, the charismatic executive trudged through the desolate concrete room, his footsteps heavy with grim determination, the sound echoing ominously. The grim aftermath unfolded further as other figures, cloaked and in dark suits, attended to the wounded. Amidst the clamor of urgent activity, the charismatic executive stood amidst the chaos. The female protagonist's face contorted in a silent her wide eyes reflecting the sheer terror and shock of her surroundings. Rushing to her side, the charismatic executive cradled the female protagonist, who cried out his name, Morinaga Kun. He, in turn, breathed a profound, "Thank God, you're safe." A weary but relieved smile touched the charismatic executive's lips as he responded, acknowledging her safety. "Yeah, you too." His hand clutched a bloodied cloth, the crimson stain a silent testament to the recent struggle and the wounds he had endured, a clumped sound accompanying the grim sight. As the scene shifted, a moment of reflection captured the charismatic executive's internal thought. I've owed her yet another big debt. The ethereal glow of leaves gave way to a serene night under a crescent moon as a distant name echoed in his mind. Yoshida. A modern building stood under the vast sky. With a soft click, a framed photograph captured a happier memory, the female protagonist smiling brightly alongside a friend. The morning light illuminated a sleek, modern residence, a stark contrast to the earlier chaos, hinting at a new, calmer setting. Inside, the female protagonist's smartphone lay on a table next to a cup, a thought bubble explaining her recent silence. Sorry, I couldn't reply to your chats. Actually, I dropped my smartphone. Seated across from her friend, the female protagonist heard the other woman express concern. I was worried because it took so long for my messages to be marked as read. The female protagonist then noted, it's been a while since we last met. The female protagonist, with a small bandage on her cheek, began by apologizing. I'm sorry for troubling Yoshida restaurant with my billboard the other day. She then shared her excitement. I've actually wanted to tell you once they chose me as the model. But Ryosuke told me it was a surprise so I should keep quiet about it. The female protagonist's friend, with a reassuring smile, dismissed the apology. Don't mind it. I'm also busy dealing with customers lately. Her friend then turned serious, asking, aren't you angry? The female protagonist replied, it wasn't your fault, Asuka. Before her friend pressed, that aside, your face is injured. What happened? The female protagonist offered a vague but intriguing explanation for her injury. I went on a great adventure. Her friend's eyes widened in surprise, a soft wow escaping her as she mused. It sounds like a very dangerous place. With a decisive clack, the female protagonist set down her cup, steering the conversation in a new direction. Forget it. Actually. Her face lit up with a beaming smile as she excitedly declared, I finally found the one for me. The female protagonist's friend gasped in genuine astonishment. Really? The female protagonist added a playful hint, her smile widening, and it's someone you know too. Her friend leaned forward, a mix of curiosity and confusion on her face. Wait, who? Which one? With a radiant expression, the female protagonist revealed the name. It's Morinaga. The female protagonist's friend's jaw dropped, a stunned escaping her lips at the unexpected news. Her friend, still reeling from the shock, directly questioned the female protagonist. Asuka, are you going out with Mr. Morinaga? The female protagonist responded with a bewildered Her friend's expression hardened as she recalled a past grievance, presenting a phone image. I mean, he's the culprit behind my dating site incident. Didn't you say so to me back then? Remember the sugar daddy website incident? Don't you think he was the culprit? The female protagonist's eyes widened in dawning recognition, a soft that escaping her lips as the memory surfaced. The memory clicked into place for the female protagonist, a knowing that one on her lips. With a cheerful smile, the female protagonist quickly clarified, dispelling the accusation. I think it wasn't him after all. Sorry, I guess I just misunderstood him. Her friend listened, a hint of skepticism lingering in her question. Is that so? The female protagonist dismissed the past with a light-hearted laugh. Her thought bubbled, declaring, it's a thing of the past, let's forget it. Beaming with unbridled joy, the female protagonist exclaimed, besides, I'm in a very happy mood right now. The female protagonist's friend observed her with an intense, unreadable gaze, her eyes holding a complex mix of emotions. A subtle, almost secretive smile touched her friend's lips as she responded, you're right. If you're happy, then I'm very happy too. The female protagonist reached across the table, clasping her friend's hands, expressing profound gratitude. Thank you for always supporting me. Her friend's expression shifted into a knowing smirk as she addressed the female protagonist, Asuka. Their hands intertwined with a subtle squeeze. A fierce accusation rings out, demanding to know the plan for divorcing Emi. The voice warns that if the role of drawing out Emi's assets can no longer be fulfilled, the speaker will immediately cut them off, declaring it the only thing worthwhile about them. Charismatic executive, kneeling, addresses the female protagonist with a knowing smirk, asking if she was listening. He adds that he thought she had locked herself away, too embarrassed to show her face. The charismatic executive reveals his purpose for coming today. He has something to report. The female protagonist, still reeling, utters a single, questioning what? The charismatic executive hesitates, his hand clenching, as he begins to speak. Actually. The female protagonist's eyes widen in sheer horror, her face contorted in a silent scream. Standing over the charismatic executive, the female protagonist demands if this isn't the second time such a thing has happened, her voice laced with fury. The charismatic executive, prostrate on the floor, repeatedly cries out his apologies. A single, chilling word cuts through the tension as the charismatic executive commands, listen. The charismatic executive, gripping the female protagonist's hair, reminds her of a horrifying promise. You promised you'd kill the baby, remember? A wave of terror washes over the charismatic executive as he recalls the chilling condition. The promise applies whenever she gets pregnant. He remains silent, overwhelmed by the memory. His voice barely a whisper. The charismatic executive questions, how did the previous accident happen? The female protagonist's eye narrows with suspicion as she sharply asks, what? Kneeling before the female protagonist, the charismatic executive declares, this time I'll do it, pleading for her to teach him what needs to be done. With a cold expression, the female protagonist remains silent for a moment before coldly telling him, you should figure out how to get rid of it yourself. Charismatic executive reluctantly agrees, stating he will attempt to convince Emi to abort the baby, using her poor health as an excuse. The female protagonist, skeptical, questions if Emi would even agree to such a plan. With a confident smile, the charismatic executive explains he had already told Emi to give up on having children after her first accident, believing it will make his task easier. The female protagonist's gaze sharpens as she presses him, then how come she gets pregnant again? The charismatic executive smiles, explaining that acting too distant might raise suspicion, and assures her they use protection. Female protagonist turns away with a dismissive humph, agreeing to let him handle it himself. The charismatic executive, still smiling, reassures her that he simply doesn't want to hide anything from the female protagonist. A gift box, labeled beer, is presented as the charismatic executive offers it as a token of his apology. The female protagonist's eyes widen in surprise. The female protagonist receives the gifts in silent thought. The charismatic executive, flustered, excitedly reveals he also bought alcohol and snacks, then asks to borrow her glass. Rich red wine pours smoothly into a waiting glass, filling the room with a subtle aroma. With a soft clink, the female protagonist and the charismatic executive raise their glasses in a toast, celebrating with a quiet cheers. The female protagonist takes a deep gulp from her wine glass, the liquid disappearing quickly. The charismatic executive watches the female protagonist as she sips her drink, her eyes closed in peaceful contentment. Charismatic executive calls out to the female protagonist, his voice filled with concern as she begins to shake uncontrollably on the bed. He calls her name again, seeking a response. The charismatic executive observes the female protagonist, realizing she is deeply asleep, her soft snores filling the silence. A chilling realization dawns on the charismatic executive as he notes the sleeping pill he mixed into her wine is now fully in effect. The charismatic executive holds up a small recording device, satisfied that he now possesses evidence proving the female protagonist killed the baby. Sitting on the floor, the charismatic executive ponders, wishing for anything else that could further support his fabricated evidence. His eyes fall upon the female protagonist's smartphone, a new idea sparking in his mind. As the female protagonist softly snores, the charismatic executive's hand gently brushes her forehead, a sinister intent hidden behind the seemingly tender gesture. His fingers carefully peel open the female protagonist's eyelid, a disturbing invasion of her unconscious state. The female protagonist's eye remains vacantly open as the charismatic executive holds her phone, a chilling ugh escaping him. He scrolls through the female protagonist's chat list, seeing Emi and chats with her manager, but finds nothing suspicious there. Realizing the female protagonist is an influencer, he deduces there must be a multitude of chats hidden within her Instagram DMs. A name catches his eye on the screen, Toshima Minato. He muses that the name sounds familiar. He reads further, noting this guy owns a Porsche. Concluding he's just a rich dude, the charismatic executive dismisses him, stating he doesn't know him. The phone screen reveals a series of messages from Toshima Minato. I'm glad we met at the reunion. I'll do anything if it's for you, Itu. I miss you, Itu. Chilling realization washes over the charismatic executive as he connects the pieces. At class reunion. Don't tell me he's. The clamor of a past gathering fills his mind. The lively clamor of the class reunion fills the air as old classmates catch up. One voice cuts through, exclaiming, I didn't think you'd actually come, Itu. A female classmate, sipping her drink, leans in to tell another, I've been following your account. It seems you've been traveling abroad a lot. The male replies, yes, for shooting. I also went to Australia and Hong Kong recently. He then adds, almost as an afterthought, Korea too, his voice a low mumble. The conversation shifts, with one classmate exclaiming, ah, right. Another playfully remarks, you know too much, Minato. Is it because you've been her fan for a long time? Male classmate Minato grins widely while the female classmate beside him looks on with a surprised expression, asking, wait, is that true? A name echoes in the charismatic executive's mind, a chilling realization forming, that Toshima Minato? The charismatic executive stares at his phone, a look of disbelief on his face as he remembers he's such a plain guy, and he never really spoke to Asuka even back in high school either. His thoughts swirl, desperately trying to comprehend, but why? A sharp gasp escapes the charismatic executive's lips as the pieces click into place, his eyes wide with shock. The name solidifies in his mind, Toshima Minato. He stares at the phone screen, reading the chilling messages. I'm glad we met at the reunion. I'll do anything if it's for you, Ms. Itu. I miss you, Ms. Itu. The messages continue, to be able to hold you again, it feels like a dream, because I thought it was just a fling for you. A cold dread washes over the charismatic executive as he reads the word, again. His mind races, struggling to understand, the heck did he mean by that? A sudden urgency compels the charismatic executive to shout, Emmy. The female protagonist stands across the room, arms crossed, observing the charismatic executive with a calm, yet questioning gaze. Her eyes widen slightly, awaiting his explanation. He hesitates, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, managing only a soft, ah. Her eyes widen in shock as the female protagonist repeats the name, Minato Toshima. A chilling question follows, our high school classmate. Charismatic executive gestures emphatically, revealing she had an affair with that guy. The charismatic executive points to his phone, asking, the way he phrased it, doesn't it imply they hooked up before? The female protagonist nods, agreeing, I think so too. There's more before this one, the charismatic executive reveals, his eyes fixed on the screen. So I decided to check everything. And then. He scrolls further, displaying earlier messages. It's been a while. Wanna meet? Followed by I'm so happy to be invited by you again, Itu, and I want to visit the restaurant we went to last year. The female protagonist questions, did you not find anything regarding this restaurant from their previous texts? The charismatic executive replies, frustration in his voice, that's the problem. I couldn't find it at all. The scene abruptly shifts, a foot pressing down hard on a gas pedal, accelerating into the unknown. A woman cries out in alarm, Emmy, Emmy, as she cradles the female protagonist, who appears to be in a state of shock or injury. Both the charismatic executive and the female protagonist stand side by side, their faces etched with concern as they process the unsettling revelations. The scene shifts to a quiet cafe where the female protagonist sits alone at a booth, sipping her drink, unaware of the sinister connection to this very place. Charismatic executive watches the female protagonist from a distance, her unsuspecting presence a stark contrast to the danger he now perceives around her. A new figure, bandaged on his face and arm, shrugs off his injuries, stating, well, it's just a scratch. The bandaged man extends an envelope to the female protagonist, his voice serious, this is more important. As they sit across from each other, the bandaged man reveals a crucial detail, Toshima works at his parents' car repair workshop. The female protagonist's eyes widen in realization. Document displays a photograph of a car repair workshop, and the chilling implication is clear, his car might have been tampered with in that place. The female protagonist asks, are you saying he's her accomplice? The bandaged man replies cautiously, I'm not sure if he was in on it or just following the other woman's orders. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, leaving behind a trail of unsettling questions. The charismatic executive, his head still bandaged from the incident, proposes a lead. If they could obtain the CCTV footage from before the event, they might uncover the truth. He then volunteers to sneak in himself, ready to take direct action. But the female protagonist immediately shuts down his suggestion. She reminds him that he was injured protecting her last time, stating she cannot ask him to risk himself again while he's still recovering. Instead, she reveals she has someone else in mind, someone who is eager to assist, and she intends to ask them. The younger associate, overwhelmed with emotion, desperately pleads to help, proclaiming he will do anything she asks. The charismatic executive questions the female protagonist, asking if she truly trusts the younger associate with such a critical task. Female protagonist coldly admits she doesn't trust him but reveals she has leverage over him, making him a useful tool. The charismatic executive, accepting her reasoning, states that if her employee is willing, he is too. He then instructs her to deliver the layout plan to Sokka. A subtle smile plays on the female protagonist's lips as she acknowledges the plan, expressing her gratitude. The younger associate reacts with shock and disbelief upon learning he must infiltrate the target's location. Female protagonist calmly presents him with the documents, subtly threatening to replace him with Mr. Morinaga if he cannot handle the task. His resolve hardens, and the younger associate firmly declares he will undertake the mission. With a slight smile, the female protagonist simply confirms, "Okay." The younger associate points to the blueprint, emphasizing that CCTV footage of someone tampering with Asuka's car would provide crucial evidence. The female protagonist nods in agreement, confirming his assessment. A sinister aura surrounds the female protagonist as her eyes burn red, declaring her intent to make Asuka and Toshima pay for the death of her baby. The younger associate, oblivious to her dark thoughts, blushes, finding her intense expression surprisingly alluring. The female protagonist gently holds the younger associate's hand. The younger associate tenderly embraces the female protagonist, confessing he has reflected deeply on his past betrayal, acknowledging its unforgivable nature but suggests that adversity can strengthen resolve. With his eyes closed, the younger associate expresses his fervent hope that now they can finally become a true couple. Over his shoulder, the female protagonist's expression remains cold and calculating, a stark contrast to his hopeful words. He continues, reminding her that the child she mourned was also his, fueling his own desire for revenge against those who wronged them. The female protagonist's eyes narrow with dark fury, internally scoffing at his words, especially his claim on their baby. Unaware of her true feelings, the younger associate softly murmurs his desire for them to be a real couple. Meanwhile, the charismatic executive intently studies his laptop, his expression grave. He glances at the female protagonist, who offers him a gentle smile. The younger associate, still lost in the embrace, softly utters the female protagonist's name. He leans in for a kiss, catching the female protagonist by surprise. The female protagonist quickly pushes him away, a look of distress on her face as she cries, "Stop." The younger associate apologizes, then hesitantly asks if they can be together once the operation is complete. The female protagonist offers him a warm, reassuring smile. The younger associate looks down, relieved, and thanks the female protagonist. He smiles, but a dark thought reveals his true motive, using this opportunity to fully exact revenge for the betrayal he suffered. The female protagonist maintains her gentle smile, observing the younger associate. Under the pale glow of a crescent moon, the target building stands silent in the night. The younger associate, now in disguise with a cap and mask, surveys the building, recognizing it as Toshima Automobile Repair. The younger associate, now in disguise with a cap and mask, surveys the building, recognizing it as Toshima Automobile Repair. Suddenly, a startling realization hits him, indicated by a sharp internal alarm. Crouching behind a white car, the younger associate's mind races. He identifies the unexpected presence, Toshima Minato. He thinks, bewildered, but he shouldn't be here at this hour, right? The man in question, Toshima Minato, dressed in a blue jumpsuit, stands casually in the garage, unaware. In the background, the younger associate, hidden in the car, raises his hands in a gesture of panicked surprise. A close-up reveals the younger associate's wide, panicked eyes behind his mask and glasses. "Crap, I'm in trouble," he internally screams, his cover blown. He remains frozen in a moment of sheer panic, his hands still raised, as the gravity of being discovered settles in. Narrative transitions, announcing the current chapter, The Betrayed Wife's Resentful Revenge, Chapter 25. Toshima Minato walks away, his back to the hidden younger associate who remains crouched behind the car, observing his target's movements. Toshima Minato is now at a desk, seemingly distracted by a potted plant, his attention diverted from his surroundings. A sly grin spreads across the younger associate's face. He lets out a quiet, mischievous hee-hee as a new plan begins to form. Toshima Minato sits at the desk, completely engrossed in a book, oblivious to the watchful eyes and brewing scheme. The younger associate's internal monologue reveals his observation. "Is that porn?" he wonders, noticing the suggestive content of Toshima's book. With a swift motion, the younger associate's foot kicks over a small cylinder, creating a distracting noise. Toshima Minato turns, alerted by the sound, while the younger associate quickly ducks back behind the car. "Shit, he noticed me," he thinks, the plan now in motion. Toshima Minato's face shows a flash of annoyance and surprise as he registers the disturbance. Back at his desk, Toshima Minato types on his phone, chuckling to himself. "Hee, let's reply. Thanks for telling me, MSI to you," he mutters, seemingly engaging in a casual conversation. The younger associate's foot steps forward with renewed determination. "This is my chance," he realizes, seizing the moment of distraction. The younger associate makes a dash from the building, successfully escaping. From a distance, the charismatic executive watches, a faint smile playing on his lips. The charismatic executive, with a subtle smirk, acknowledges the successful extraction. "Oh ho, he came out safely," he remarks, pleased with the outcome. Still on the phone, the charismatic executive concludes his call. I have to get back to work soon. Until then, Minato, he states, implying his continued monitoring. Meanwhile, the female protagonist answers a call, her expression bright and confident. Hello, Yoshida, she greets, ready for an update. The hand on her hip, the female protagonist confidently reports, it's finished. He's heading home now, confirming the successful completion of the task. Leaning against the wall, the charismatic executive reflects on the operation. To think Toshima would suddenly return. That was dangerous. Good thing I prepared Iru's fake account beforehand, he muses, then adds, I'm going to check out this place a bit more. The female protagonist offers her praise and a word of caution. Good job, Morinaga. Be careful, she advises, her concern evident. The call ends with a definitive pip sound, signifying the conclusion of their conversation. Charismatic executive enters the room, a warm smile on his face, holding a remote. Welcome, he greets the female protagonist, who smiles back. In their living room, the charismatic executive asks, how was it? The female protagonist replies, recounting her surprise, I was so surprised that Toshima suddenly came back, but I managed to slip away just in the nick of time. The female protagonist expresses her gratitude. Thank you. I hope there's some evidence recorded here, she says. The charismatic executive offers, wanna check it on my PC? With a chibi-style nod, the female protagonist eagerly accepts. Yes, please, she replies, ready to review the findings. They stand before a computer, preparing to examine the collected footage, the screen glowing expectantly. Charismatic executive points to the blank screen. This is the footage from 1 week before the accident, he explains, setting the context for their investigation. He places his hand on the mouse, ready to navigate. Let's fast forward it, he declares, eager to get to the crucial parts of the recording. The charismatic executive's eyes widen in disbelief, recognizing the figure on the screen. It's Asuka's, he exclaims, the revelation hitting him hard. On the monitor, a figure by a sleek car comes into view. Look, the charismatic executive urges, his voice tense. It's Minato Toshima. He identifies, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. A wave of shock washes over the charismatic executive as he stares at the screen. I can't believe he really did it, he mutters, his voice laced with disbelief at the unfolding truth. Gravity of the situation settles heavily. The charismatic executive stands, his back to the female protagonist, as he solemnly states, this confirmed it. The screen's incriminating image still burns brightly. The female protagonist's expression hardens as she considers the implications. Toshima might actually be used to take on illicit work like that, she muses, her voice filled with a chilling realization. The charismatic executive's eyes snap open in understanding. That explains why his Instagram profile picture was a Porsche, he realizes, a grim smile forming. He made a lot with that, he adds, the bitterness evident in his tone. A quiet huff escapes the female protagonist as her distress grows, her gaze distant. The charismatic executive, noticing her sudden change, softly calls out, EMI. Chilling ultrasound image flashes in the female protagonist's mind. Her thoughts, dark and burning, declare, to my baby, they really. The memory fuels her grief and anger. Overwhelmed by a surge of raw emotion, the female protagonist collapses to her knees, clutching her hands tightly. Her body trembles with suppressed sobs, huff, huff, echoing her pain. Concern etched on his face, the charismatic executive kneels beside her, gently taking her hand. Emmy, you okay? He asks urgently. Does it hurt? Need water? He presses, trying to soothe her distress. Bittersweet montage of past happiness flickers into view, the female protagonist, radiant in a wedding gown, smiling alongside her husband, Ryosuke. Memories of joyful unions, now starkly contrasted with her present despair. Back in the present, the charismatic executive's concern deepens as he gently holds the female protagonist. Emmy, what's wrong? He asks, his voice soft but insistent, seeking to understand her pain. In a gesture of profound comfort, the charismatic executive pulls the female protagonist into a gentle embrace, shielding her from the painful reality that has just unfolded. Her silent sobs rack her frame. After a moment, the female protagonist slowly pulls back, her voice soft but steady. Thank you, I'm fine now, she assures him, though her eyes betray a lingering sorrow. Soft, warm light filters through delicate leaves, signaling a quiet passage of time and a shift in the somber atmosphere. A quiet meal unfolds between the charismatic executive and the female protagonist. The silence hangs heavy, punctuated only by the unspoken weight of their recent discovery. Looking at the female protagonist with empathy, the charismatic executive acknowledges her pain. Emmy, you must be shocked, he says softly. That's a serious crime they did, he adds, his voice firm with conviction. Female protagonist's gaze is distant, her mind reeling with possibilities. Now it's revealed, shall we sue them? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. With the evidence I took, she begins, her resolve hardening. Her eyes remain closed, a silent testament to the turmoil within. The weight of her decision presses down, a battle fought in the quiet chambers of her mind. Deep within her, a fiery resolve ignites. Ryosuke still betrayed me, her thoughts burn with conviction. And I've chosen revenge for the baby who was taken from me, she vows, her determination absolute. With a deliberate motion, the female protagonist places a divorce paper on the table, her name, Yoshida Emi, starkly visible. This is her first concrete step towards retribution. The charismatic executive pauses, chopsticks mid-air, his expression shifting to utter bewilderment. "Ha!" he utters, caught off guard by the unexpected document. From above, the female protagonist gestures towards the divorce papers. "I want to submit it, so please fill it out," she states, her voice calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. The charismatic executive's composure shatters, his face contorted in a mix of shock and fury. He slams his hands on the table, shouting, "You promised to forgive me if I could get my hands on the evidence that Asuka killed your baby." As the female protagonist lets out a chilling giggle, the charismatic executive's rage boils over. "This is no laughing matter," he roars, utterly baffled by her cruel amusement. A sinister snicker escapes the female protagonist as her hand rests on the divorce papers. "Finally, I can repay you," she declares, her voice dripping with cold satisfaction. The charismatic executive stares, utterly perplexed. "Ha, what is this about repaying me?" he questions, failing to grasp the dark meaning behind her words as the female protagonist remains shrouded in shadow. The female protagonist's face twists into a chilling, triumphant smile. Addressing the charismatic executive with a venomous Ryosuke, she declares, "That's why I wanted you to feel the same thing." Her words are a cruel curse. Her face contorts into a horrifying mask of vengeful glee, tears streaming down her cheeks as a wide, chilling smile spreads across her lips. A truly terrifying sight. Her inner voice screams, "For you to suffer as much as I did." The words echo with the raw pain and bitter satisfaction of a soul consumed by vengeance. The charismatic executive's face pales, his eyes wide with horror as the female protagonist's voice, now laced with venom, cuts through the air. "Say, Ryosuke," she begins, her tone chillingly accusatory. The female protagonist, tears still wet on her cheeks, lifts her gaze, a cruel glint in her eyes. "Did I do a good job at repaying the despair I received?" she asks, her voice dripping with a twisted satisfaction directed at the charismatic executive. A surge of suppressed fury courses through the charismatic executive. His thoughts boil. "You're getting cocky just because I've been staying quiet." The silence he maintained was not weakness, but a gathering storm. Charismatic executive's fist clenches, knuckles white, a silent testament to his rising fury. In the background, the female protagonist watches, a flicker of surprise in her eyes at his sudden intensity. His mind screams in indignation, "Every single one of you is making a fool out of me." The realization of her manipulation ignites a dangerous spark within him. The female protagonist's eyes widen in stark terror, her breath catching in her throat. An exclamation mark hangs in the air, a silent scream of alarm as she witnesses his sudden, terrifying shift. His face a mask of pure fury, the charismatic executive lunges forward, a gleaming knife clutched in his hand. "You deceived me," he roars, his voice raw with betrayal. The knife glints menacingly in the charismatic executive's grip as he screams, unforgivable. His fury is absolute, promising a brutal retaliation for her deception. The female protagonist flees in sheer terror as the charismatic executive pursues her, his voice a desperate, enraged cry. "I'll lose my job, my home, and I won't even be able to survive once we divorce," he screams, his world crumbling around him. The very fabric of reality seems to tear, reflecting the charismatic executive's unraveling world as his desperate cries echo into the void. This chaotic energy surges, threatening to consume everything. Above the swirling abyss, a framed memory shatters as the charismatic executive's enraged voice cuts through the chaos, a chilling declaration, "You can't escape from me." His face contorted in a mask of despair and fury, the charismatic executive lunges, his arm raised, poised to strike the female protagonist in a desperate final act. But before his rage can culminate, a new presence intervenes. The shadowy pursuer's grip clamps down on the charismatic executive's arm, halting the attack mid-motion, leaving the female protagonist stunned. Shadowy pursuer's cold gaze fixes on the charismatic executive, his voice dripping with contempt as he delivers a scathing judgment. "You really are an absolute scumbag, huh?"